The moment Su Hao swung his sword, the Earth Lord immediately launched a counterattack. But since he was pretending to be dead, Su Hao didn't want him to wake up again. He wanted him to disappear completely. As the Earth Lord rose, Su Hao chopped him into two pieces at the chest. From the severed parts, a large amount of black crystal immediately extended, connecting the two halves. Just as it was about to regenerate, Su Hao's long sword continued to swing, its blade flashing. Crack, crack, crack. For a moment, black crystal fragments flew in all directions as the Earth Lord shattered and reformed, repeatedly trying to escape while Su Hao relentlessly hacked at him. At this point, the Earth Lord had lost the courage to fight. He only wanted to live. However, as his life force rapidly depleted, the time it took for him to regenerate grew longer. When he finally returned to his original form, he had lost the strength to escape and lay on the ground, looking at Su Hao with pleading eyes, hoping that Su Hao would spare his life. Su Hao, clad in his impressive steel armor, still looked immaculate. He walked slowly to the side of the Earth Lord and asked, "Both of you, why did you come to Lingyuan City?" The Earth Lord's eyes lit up with hope and he hurriedly said, "As long as you promise to spare my life, I'll tell you everything." Su Hao remained silent, raising his sword as if to behead him. Panicked, the Earth Lord immediately exclaimed, "Stop, stop, I'll talk. Please, don't kill me." Regardless, every second of life was a gain, and who knew, maybe a miracle would happen and he would survive. Su Hao stopped, not retracting his sword, and asked, "So why did you come to Lingyuan City?" The Earth Lord pondered and said, "We were originally settled in the subsidiary Shuishi City under Alien City. But some time ago, a powerful level 7 mutant, who everyone calls Slaughter, suddenly appeared in Alien City. He seems to be a level 7 mutant of the Poison People sequence, known as Fiend. He first killed all 3 level 7 mutants in Alien City, then went on a killing spree, wiping out all the mutants in the city in just a few days. Later, it only took him a day to kill all the mutants in a city." At this point, the Earth Lord had a look of disbelief on his face. This is unbelievable. Level 7 mutants are nearly invincible in direct combat. They usually die in situations where their weaknesses are discovered by someone they trust or when they're near the end of their lifespans, passing on their abilities through flesh and blood. Su Hao's eyes lit up, and he asked curiously, "So, the level 7 in the Poison People sequence is called Fiend. Why is it named Fiend?" The Earth Lord shook his head and said, "I don't know, but the saying that has been passed down as opposing life makes one a fiend. The Poison People sequence reaches its peak as Fiend. Discover new stories on no/v/e/albin.com." Su Hao then asked, "What is the level 7 of the Shell People sequence called?" The Earth Lord found it strange that Su Hao didn't even know this, but he didn't dare show any unusual reactions and replied, "The Shell People sequence controls the power of life and is known as life. The level 7 mutant is called Life Bearer. I also know the names of the level 7 mutants in 3 other sequences. Speed sequence is level 7 is still, Soak sequence is level 7 is constant, and Nightwalker sequence is level 7 is all seeing. As for the rest, I have no idea because Alien City doesn't have level 7 mutants from other sequences." Su Hao nodded in understanding and then asked, "So have you seen the Slaughter?" The Earth Lord was embarrassed and said, "I haven't seen him. I guess anyone who has seen him couldn't escape. He not only killed all the mutants in Alien City but also went on a killing spree in other cities, killing mutants of all levels. He's incredibly powerful, almost unimaginable. The mutants in cities around Alien City were terrified, and they all fled. I heard rumors and didn't think much of it, so I followed the crowd and ended up here in Lingyuan City by accident." Su Hao said, "Do you know where the level 7 Life Bearer is?" The Earth Lord immediately nodded and said, "Yes, I know." Then he spoke cautiously, "Big brother, you see, I don't have any ill intentions. I just ended up here accidentally while fleeing. I haven't done anything wrong. If you spare my life, I can offer you my flesh. As long as you spare me, I'll tell you immediately where Life Bearer is." Su Hao remained silent and lifted his sword to strike. The Earth Lord immediately shouted, "Stop, stop. I'll talk right away." Su Hao stopped, watching him in silence. The Earth Lord was still trembling, looking at Su Hao's long steel armor blade. His brain was racing, searching for a way out. But it seemed like his brain wasn't working properly. No matter how he thought, the signals it sent were all saying, "You can die now." It was a dead end. He was unwilling to accept it. After seeing Su Hao's impatience, he had no choice but to say, "The Life Bearer is in a large city to the east, Huyang City. It's said that this generation of Life Bearer is nearing the end of its lifespan, and many Earth Lord are converging there, hoping to seize a share of its flesh. My original goal was Huyang City, and I'll be leaving soon. Oh, by the way, I can lead you there personally. How about it?" Su Hao said, "No need, I can go there on my own." Su Hao asked a few more questions, but after not finding any useful information, he said, 5 seconds to leave your last words." Earth Lord Donglan widened his eyes in despair. "Big brother, I'll be your slave, spare my life." Su Hao nodded and said, "I've received your last words." He swung his sword. Earth Lord Donglan had regained some strength at this point and desperately tried to escape. But in just a moment, Su Hao knocked him to the ground, and he had no strength left to regenerate. The black crystal on his body also slowly receded. Su Hao raised his sword again and beheaded Earth Lord Donglan. Thud. This time, the beheading felt real. Earth Lord Donglan's life force gradually dissipated, and after a moment, there were no signs of life. With this, the mission was completed. Furthermore, he obtained the flesh of a Mist Lord as an extra reward. Not only that, he probably figured out what had happened in Alien City and got information about the Life Bearer, the future evolution target for the Earth Lord. He wasn't sure if it was true, but he would find out when he got there. The only thing that concerned him was the appearance of the Slaughter. This mutant could kill even supposedly immortal level 7 mutants. Just how powerful was he? The key was that the appearance of the Slaughter made Su Hao sense that trouble was coming, most likely directed at him. Every so often, unexpected things happened to him, as if bad luck clung to him. Su Hao had gotten used to it. "I don't know how powerful this Slaughter is. I need to evolve into a level 6 Earth Lord as soon as possible and then go to Huyang City to see if there really is a Life Bearer. If there is, I'll borrow a piece of flesh from him, and in return, I'll provide him with some supplements to balance it out." With this in mind, Su Hao stopped overthinking and decided that what had to come would come. In this world of genetic research, he had already gained a lot. If something truly targeted him, he could simply wait for tens of millions of years and undergo a proper reincarnation. Looking back at the mostly destroyed Lingyuan City, he couldn't help but sigh and muttered, "There's no such thing as a peaceful time, it's just a matter of being strong. Once you're weak, the worst things can happen." It was unclear how long it would take for this city to recover its former prosperity. Or maybe it had already reached the pinnacle of its glory and would decline from now on. Su Hao picked up 2 bodies, transformed his steel armor into 2 baskets, and flew into the sky, slowly moving away. Evolving into a Earth Lord as soon as possible. By now, the sun had already risen, shining down on the shattered Lingyuan city. The scene of Su has battle with the Earth Lord and Mist Lord was witnessed by countless people in the Lingyuan city. Although some tried to hide, their curiosity got the better of them, and they quietly observed. Juhua people, with exceptional eyesight, watched the entire battle from start to finish. Even some of the extraordinary individuals, confident in their life-saving abilities, ventured within a kilometer to watch the fight. Unfortunately, a few unlucky ones got caught in Suha's fire dragon domain, suffering burns but miraculously surviving. After Suha left, the onlookers from a distance began to emerge, walking into the chaotic battlefield. The two powerful extraordinary individuals who wrecked the city are dead. They were incredibly strong. Who's that person in the handsome iron armor? He managed to kill those two incredibly powerful guys. When I saw the giant appear, I thought the sky was falling. I never expected such a powerful giant to be defeated and killed. That iron-armored guy is the most powerful extraordinary individual I've ever seen, without a doubt. And that massive crater, the deafening noise. It was so awe-inspiring. Extraordinary individuals can reach such levels, if only I. Who knows who that iron-armored guy is? I don't know. He headed in the direction of Temple Forest City. Could he be Temple Forest City Wei? It's possible. It's definitely him, don't you remember? 4 years ago, he killed the mighty Heavenly Lord Stan and destroyed the entire Tianxia gang. That's right, it must be Temple Forest City Wei. Shall we go to Temple Forest City then? With Wei around, we'll surely find protection. Let's go together. And so, a continuous migration began, catching Yashin off guard. But Suha's connection to this event had become minimal. He flew back outside the city, landed, and once again transformed into steel, sinking underground to move to his laboratory. A moment later, he emerged from the laboratory. Suha tossed the two bodies aside, heaved a sigh of relief, not really tired but somewhat exhausted from not getting a good night's sleep. Suha briefly handled the two bodies, preserved them, and then lay down to sleep. No one disturbed him, and he slept until the following morning, waking up feeling refreshed, all negative emotions gone. But he was a bit hungry. He immediately located Yashin and said through a loudspeaker, "Yashin, I'm hungry, come back and make me something to eat." As for whether Yashin was handling the Temple Forest Guild's affairs, Suha didn't know. What could be more important than filling his stomach? Yashin promptly stood up and said, "Don't worry, boss Wei, just give me a moment, I'll be right back." After saying that, Yashin immediately dropped what he was doing and ran out. He had already disappeared by the time his voice came back, saying, "Tainy, you're in charge of the next steps, do whatever you think is best, I trust you." The young woman Tainy was left bewildered, looking at the contact officer, Demon Devourer Norlin. Tainy sat in Yashin's seat and said helplessly, "Norlin, with or without him, it's the same, we don't need him. Let's continue." Norlin nodded. Yashin had become a bit of a master chef in Temple Forest City, thanks to Suha's guidance. In no time, the table was filled with dishes neatly arranged, and the aroma was enticing. Suha didn't hesitate and sat down, digging in. He mumbled, "Yashin, come, sit down and eat too." Following his words, Yashin sat down. He watched their leader eat heartily and couldn't resist joining in, eating and drinking to his heart's content. After a while, Suha leaned back contentedly and patted his stomach, saying, "Yashin, your skills have improved a lot." Yashin, also satisfied, let out a satisfied burp and said, "Hee, boss Wei, you've taught me well. Haha, before I met boss Wei, I had no idea what real food was." Suha said, "There's food and drink, but don't be picky." Yashin nodded and said, "Of course." Suha continued, "Yashin, for the next year things might not be very peaceful. According to the information I've received, there's a slaughter hunting extraordinary individuals in Huyang City, so you better prepare well." After briefly explaining the situation to Yashin, Suha added, "If the situation gets bad, you might need to evacuate lightly." For a moment, Yashin fell silent. He understood what boss Wei meant by evacuating lightly. It meant taking a few trusted confidants and leaving directly. As for the other members of the Temple Force Guild, they would be left to fend for themselves. After many years of running the guild, there were some emotional attachments that weren't easy to let go of. It wasn't something that could be resolved with a simple evacuation. However, since boss Wei had mentioned the need to evacuate, the situation must be very serious. When the time came, Yashin would undoubtedly be able to distinguish between priorities. But he couldn't figure out just how powerful this slaughter could be, to the extent that boss Wei felt the need to avoid him. Now that things were clear, Suha didn't dwell on it any further. He could tell Yashin what to do, but ultimately, Yashin had to make his own choices about how to proceed. In reality, everyone lives with a great deal of freedom, able to choose what they want to do as long as they can bear the consequences. That's the freedom of the mind. You can leave everything behind and travel, stay at home all day, stay up late, study diligently, or even run wild on the streets. Anxiety arises when there are too many things you can't let go of, restricting your mind. Like Yashin now, he felt anxious at the thought of allowing the Temple Forest Guild members to fend for themselves, unable to let go of the emotional attachment. But in reality, he could handle the consequences. He just wanted everything without wanting to bear the consequences. Yashin's mind wasn't free. After a while, Suha got up and said, "Yashin, you seem to be in good shape now. Come with me, I'll take you to evolve into an Earth Lord." Yashin looked puzzled and asked, "What do you mean by evolve an Earth Lord?" Suha didn't explain and simply got up to return to the laboratory. Visit novel.com for new novels. Yashin, seeing the leftover food on the table, instinctively thought about cleaning up, but he quickly realized he needed to catch up with Boss Wei's footsteps. Once inside the laboratory, he immediately noticed the two bodies soaking in a water tank and exclaimed, "Boss Wei, these are." Suha said, "These are the bodies of the Earth Lord and Mist Lord." Yashin widened his eyes and asked, "The Earth Lord, are they the newcomers in Lingyuan City? Boss Wei, when did you kill them?" Yashin couldn't help but be shocked. Just a few days ago, he had heard the members of the Four Kings gang talking about Lingyuan City, and he couldn't have imagined that these troublemakers, who had been causing chaos for the Four Kings gang, were now obediently lying in Boss Wei's laboratory. Boss Wei was really something else, beyond words. Suha said, "Come on, Yashin, lie down, and I'll collect some blood samples." Yashin immediately took off his shirt and lay down on the examination bed, extending his arm willingly. Although he hadn't been mentally prepared to evolve suddenly, he appeared very calm. After following Boss Wei, he had experienced all sorts of things. Calm was the way to go. But he couldn't have dreamed that he would easily reach the 6th level of extraordinary mutants. It was almost the pinnacle of power in this world. To think of Boss Wei as a benefactor in his life, what a blessing to him. How do you behead someone like Su Hao? He doesn't even know the answer himself. In Su Ha's eyes, no mere 7th level mutant, not even the infamous slaughterer, can pose a threat to him. This is Su Ha's confidence. However, Su Hao decides to take a cautious approach and puts his rune genetics experiments on hold. He plans to head to Huxing City and obtain the life-bearer blood before making further decisions. Su Hao didn't say a word, taking advantage of the darkness to escape outside the city, disappearing into the night sky. Huyang City is a supersized city of the first tier in this world, akin to the administrative capital of a country. Only 7 such supersized cities are marked on the map. They are Huyang, Xingdi, Shaozang, Yukan, Jinji, Zaiwei, and Anliang. These 7 cities are quite far apart, and even if Su Hao flies at full speed from Huyang to the nearest, Xingdi, it would take him half a day. Don't underestimate the short distance. If he doesn't rest on the way, he can fly at least 20,000 kilometers in a day and a night. Given a few days, he might even be able to fly around the planet. Su Ha's map had some inaccuracies. He followed the map's directions and arrived over Huyang City, but couldn't find the city's traces until morning. He had to continuously search while circling around before finally finding this massive city. Su Hao, from a great height, looked down at the city. Huyang City was located at the confluence of 3 rivers, sprawling and fast, about 4 times the size of Linyuan City, with an immeasurable population. It's hard to imagine such a massive settlement in this relatively underdeveloped world, which must be related to its geographical location. Transportation is always a crucial factor in the development of large cities, regardless of where they are. However, just as Su Hao marveled at the grandeur of the city, a massive surge of blood chi rose from Huyang City and flew towards him. Su Hao was slightly startled and looked in the direction. He saw a blurry figure swiftly approaching him. He immediately prepared himself, his long knife ready, runes engraved, ready to strike at any moment. The approaching figure was one of the 4 strongest blood chi reactions in the city, with blood chi nearly 1/3 the size of Su Ha's, and new N0 fell chapters are published on N0V/E/LBI and co/M. This person must be a 7th level mutant. This person before him was the strongest mutant that Su Hao had faced since arriving in this world and represented the world's ceiling of power. Be careful. Su Hao heightened his vigilance, but for some reason, his cells became excited, a sensation of youthful vigor that he couldn't fully control. However, it didn't matter. Su Hao pointed his long knife straight at the approaching enemy, not retreating but advancing, charging towards the 7th level mutant. He aimed to win this battle. As they got closer, he could see the person's appearance clearly. Their entire body was covered in long, black fur, smooth and sleek like a seal's texture, with only 2 round eyes exposed. In an instant, the person's hands spread open, and their massive wing membrane expanded. With another contraction, their speed increased even further, and their sharp claws gleamed with a cold light. Su Hao immediately confirmed the person's identity. This was Mingzi, the 7th level mutant from the Nightwalker sequence. Su Hao squinted his eyes, and as they passed each other in midair, a clashing sound was heard. The scene he had imagined of cutting Mingzi in 2 with 1 strike didn't happen. Su Ha's knife easily severed Mingzi's claw, while Mingzi left 3 shallow marks on Su Ha's chest with its claw. In that instant of collision, Su Ha's long knife and Mingzi's claw clashed, and Su Hao effortlessly severed the claw. In a swift motion, he aimed to cut Mingzi in 2, but Mingzi's body twisted mysteriously, avoiding the attack. It even had time to scratch Su Ha's chest with its feet. And so, Mingzi had left 3 marks on Su Ha's chest as its battle achievement. Both of them looked quite surprised. Su Hao was amazed by the enemy's agility in midair, which far surpassed his own. Moreover, his level 2 barrier was torn apart by the opponent in an instant, relying solely on the hardening and deflection defenses. Mingzi was astonished by the sharpness of Su Ha's long knife and his formidable defense. Mingzi's hoarse voice sounded, "This sky is my domain, and I don't allow anyone to enter. If you don't want to die, I'll give you a chance, leave immediately." Su Hao smiled and said, "It used to be your domain, but since I arrived, this is my domain." Mingzi let out a cold snort. Immediately, he flew towards Su Hao. In the moment of nearing Su Hao, his figure blurred and then flowed like a liquid, leaving a long trail behind. He almost appeared behind Su Hao in an instant, and his flashing claws reached for Su Ha's neck. In front of his claws, any heavy armor was like nothing. Because his claws were possibly the sharpest objects in the world, with tips almost at the molecular level. As long as there were gaps between the matter, his claws could penetrate those gaps, disrupting the forces between the material molecules, effortlessly tearing apart anything that appeared to be solid. Mingzi didn't understand the principles of his claws, but he was confident that with this strike, he could at least take a piece of flesh from the black crystal armor wearer's neck. Level 2 Lightning. Su Hao had prepared the runes well in advance, even though he was surprised by the way and speed of the opponent's attack. Su Hao calmly activated the runes. Zap. A lightning bolt struck Mingzi. The claws that were about to reach Su Ha's neck froze. Black crystal thorns. Su Hao couldn't turn around in midair, so he directly sent a large number of black crystal thorns from behind. Splatter, splatter, splatter. Mingzi couldn't evade in time and was turned into a hedgehog by Su Ha's black crystal thorns. Immediately, Su Hao spun his body and his long knife swept horizontally. Unexpectedly, at this moment, Mingzi barely regained his mobility and fluidly retreated, avoiding Su Ha's long knife. Subsequently, the numerous black crystal thorns on his body slid down his long black fur. Su Ha's black crystal thorns seemed to be stuck in a bundle of yarn and didn't cause any harm to Mingzi. Is physical attack ineffective again? Su Hao wasn't surprised by this, the abilities of mutants could be quite diverse. Su Hao looked at the long fur on Mingzi's body, believing that it definitely had some special properties. He wondered what it would look like after setting it on fire. At this moment, Mingzi had some doubts. What was the light that the opponent had emitted earlier? Was it lightning? How come he had never heard of a mutant controlling lightning? Moreover, the opponent could fly, and usually only nightwalkers, mimic shifters, lightfooters, and maybe speed people could do that, but they could only briefly hover in midair. The black crystal armor wearer in front of him clearly belonged to the Shell People sequence of mutants. Mingzi had never heard of the Shell People sequence being able to fly and control lightning. His worldview was seriously challenged by what he was witnessing today. Furthermore, he realized that he couldn't defeat this opponent. As soon as he got close, the opponent would attack with lightning, causing his body to go out of control and leaving him vulnerable. He wasn't afraid, but there was no need to test the opponent's attacks unnecessarily. Su Hao exploded forward, pursuing Mingzi. He was very curious about the unique qualities of a 7th level mutant and decided to have a fight today for the sake of it. Mingzi was also a tough character. Seeing Su Hao approaching, he wasn't afraid and circled gracefully in the air, repeatedly evading Su Ha's pursuit. When Su Hao approached once more, Mingzi narrowed his round eyes. Claws of the void. In an instant, a multitude of sharp claws filled the surrounding airspace. All those claws were aimed at Suhao. Suhao looked around at the faint claw shadows all around him, immediately putting up his defenses. His black crystal armor enlarged and thickened as a precaution. This Mingxi's move appeared to be a skill similar to blood-flesh assimilation, which could allow cells and blood to be introduced into the air, giving the air special properties that could be manipulated. Swish. Suhao swung his long knife, shattering most of the claw shadows but still getting a few scratches on his armor. His level 2 barrier instantly shattered, leaving many deep marks on the black crystal armor. Suhao quickly moved out of the range of the claw shadows, distancing himself from this space. Why can his claws effortlessly tear through my barrier? Suhao glanced at Mingxi, who was chasing after him, silently preparing a large fire dragon rune. He intended to set Mingxi's smooth long fur on fire while he was unprepared. At the same time, he activated air conversion, generating a large amount of black sand, spreading it across almost the entire sky. Wasn't the opponent capable of assimilating the air to create sharp claws? He could do it too. As the entire sky was filled with black sand, Mingxi chasing behind Suhao also noticed the anomaly. Just as he hesitated, Suhao turned back. Level 2 Fire Dragon. Huff, huff. A huge fire dragon, over 100 meters long, spewed forth, swaying in the air, instantly engulfing Mingxi, who couldn't react in time. Ah. A scream, and Mingxi, with a body on fire, shot out from a long distance, escaping the range of the fire dragon. In midair, he struggled to extinguish the flames on his body. By the time he had put out all the flames, it was too late. His long fur had been burned off by Suhao, revealing Mingxi's true form. Smoke rose from his body. A flying serpent. Suhao widened his eyes and quickly corrected himself, a dragon. But it wasn't either of those. It was just a similar shape. Mingxi's body resembled a slender serpent, with hands and feet connected by wing membranes, long tail, and resembling a rayfish. If Suhao hadn't burned off the opponent's fur, he wouldn't have known that Mingxi actually had this appearance. Compared to his own handsome black crystal armor, there was no comparison. Mingxi saw his own ugly appearance exposed to others and immediately became embarrassed and angry, flying off into the distance. While flying, he transformed back into his original human form. After a moment, he transformed into Mingxi again, his black long fur completely restored. Seeing the opponent attempting to flee, Suhao immediately pursued, saying with a grin, "The sky is my domain." Immediately, the black sand that had pervaded the sky began to gather and form one black circular pattern after another, spreading across the entire sky. It was Suha's rune array. This was specifically designed for dealing with fast and slippery enemies, the Thunder Domain. The Thunder Domain covered a radius of 2,000 meters in the sky, and no matter how fast Mingxi was, he couldn't instantly escape. No matter how massive his blood chi was, it wouldn't change this fact. Thunder Domain, activate. Suhao almost shouted, roar. Thunder. To enhance his momentum. The runes around Mingxi immediately activated. Crackle. At first, there was a thunderous burst of lightning, and then the sound connected into a continuous and resounding noise. It gradually grew in intensity, and the sound echoed. This deafening sound made the people below in Huxing City look up at the sky. For a moment, everyone saw the thunderous web in the sky and the two black dots in the midst of the battle. It's Mingxi. Who is the other person? I don't know, can't see clearly. Soon, everyone knew that there were two powerful mutants battling in the sky. Had they ever seen such a fierce and dazzling battle before? One by one, they put down their work and found a good spot, looking up with great interest, as if they were watching a suddenly appeared blockbuster movie. In the sky above, a large number of electric arcs flashed and formed a web of lightning, covering Mingxi within it. Mingxi was instantly struck silent, convulsing all over and falling towards the ground. Suhao immediately rushed up with his knife, and Mingxi could only watch helplessly as the formidable Suhao descended upon him, with no way to resist. Even while falling, bolts of lightning continued to strike him from all directions, leaving his body paralyzed and unresponsive. Fire Dragon. A fire dragon swept through, burning off all of Mingxi's fur, revealing his slender and graceful body. Mingxi couldn't even scream. Once his body was exposed, Suhao raised his long knife and aimed it at him. A sudden thrust. Spurt. Suhao impaled Mingxi with a single strike. Hooking sting. In an instant, the long knife thrust into Mingxi's body burst with numerous barbed spikes, piercing through his body and leaving traces of blood on the hooks. Then, some of the spikes extended further, changing shape and entwining around Mingxi's body, tightly binding him, almost mummifying him. Suhao looked at his handiwork with satisfaction and nodded. Now you can't escape. Suhao cancelled the Thunder Domain and flew away from the sky over Huxing City with Mingxi in tow. After Suhao and Mingxi retreated, the area below Huxing City suddenly became lively, with excitement in everyone's eyes. Why did they stop fighting? It was so exciting just now. More lightning, more flames, so thrilling. Didn't you see? One of them already lost. Lost. I didn't see that. Are you blind? The tall and skinny mutant lost and was captured. Who is that tall and skinny mutant? Could it be Mingxi? As this speculation emerged, everyone around collectively took a deep breath, and the atmosphere became strangely quiet. All of them had the same thought: Mingxi has been captured. This is not good. Suhao brought Mingxi to a rocky area, left the tightly bound Mingxi to the side, and said, "I'll ask, cooperate, and behave well. I'll consider letting you go." Most up-to-date novels are published on N0VJ and co/M. Mingxi was in good mental shape, even though he had been pierced in countless places. None of the wounds were fatal. However, he couldn't move now, and he was at Suha's mercy. This was the first time Mingxi, a 7th level mutant of the Nightwalker sequence, had been treated like this. He snorted coldly but didn't respond. Suhao didn't care about Mingxi's attitude. He had given him a chance, and whether Mingxi spoke or not didn't matter. If he didn't, someone else would. Facing people who acted first and talked later like this, Suhao had no good feelings. He preferred taking action over talking when dealing with them. If he encountered someone with a bit of politeness, Suhao might have some goodwill and would consider speaking before acting. But the outcome wouldn't change much, just the order of events. Suhao calmly said, "You're the 7th level mutant Mingxi from the Nightwalker sequence, right? So, the first question, who are the other 3 7th level mutants?" Mingxi closed his eyes and didn't respond. At his stage, his heart was as firm as iron, and he understood that no matter what, Su Hao wouldn't let him go. So, why say anything more? If he could make the other party uncomfortable at the last moment, it would be a partial victory for him. He only regretted that he had been a bit reckless today. He hadn't fully understood the opponent's abilities and had rashly engaged in battle. It was truly an irrational decision. Now that he had failed, it was time to accept it, and even though he was near death, he had reached the pinnacle in his life and had no regrets. Perhaps these years of comfort had led to the loss of awe for the world and the loss of the desire to continue getting stronger. Mingzi sighed in his heart. But what he didn't understand was that if he had shown a better attitude, Su Hao might have let him go. However, his unyielding heart didn't allow him to place his hopes for survival in the enemy's mercy. He had always relied on himself for everything, and that had never changed. Su Hao extended his hand to generate a long knife and took a few steps forward. Since the other party didn't speak, there was no need to waste their time. At that moment, shadowy claw images appeared behind him and reached out to grab Su Hao. A desperate struggle. A flash of the knife. Splurt. Mingzi's head was sent flying. Died. With a critical injury to the vital area, having a lot of blood didn't help. Not everyone had the crazy self-healing ability of Earth Lord. Su Hao first recorded the genetic information of Mingzi and then properly handled the corpse, storing it in a safe place. Afterward, he shed the Earth Lord form and walked slowly toward Huxing City. Obtaining the flesh and blood of the highest level life bearer in the Shell People sequence was both simple and not simple for Su Hao. To say it was simple, he could charge forward, engage in hundreds of rounds of battle just like with the Mingzi, deplete their vitality, and then directly harvest them, ending the fight. With the strength of Su's vitality, even the strongest in the city had only about 1/3 of his vitality, and the weakest had only about 1/10. In a battle of attrition, no one could outlast Su Hao, ensuring a win. To say it was not simple, it was because Su Hao wasn't a person without boundaries. After all, this was an extremely massive city, inhabited by countless people. If he were to recklessly battle the life bearer in the city, it would inevitably affect countless lives and might even destroy Huxing City. Don't underestimate the destructive power of the Earth Lord and life bearer. With just Su Hao alone, if his vitality spread, over half of Huxing City would be transformed into black crystal armor, and any movement would instantly destroy this part of Huxing City. Not to mention the higher level life bearer. You can imagine what it would be like if two of them transformed into giant creatures over 100 meters tall and fought each other. Ultraman versus monsters. We don't know who would win, but the city would be doomed. So, the safest approach that Su Hao thought of was to secretly approach, use level 2 lightning continuously to paralyze the target, cut a big piece of flesh, and leave. Safe. The more Su Hao thought about it, the more feasible it seemed. Let's do it this way. First, he needed to find out where the life bearer was. He had already killed one Mingzi and had 3 level 7 mutants remaining. First, let's figure out who the life bearer is. When Su Hao entered Huxing City, he found that everyone had gathered in circles, eagerly discussing the recent battle he had with Mingzi. There was no hesitation in calling Mingzi by name, even though most people probably didn't know what Mingzi meant. So, there's no need to secretly inquire. I can ask anyone. This was simple. Su Hao pretended to be clueless and grabbed a nearby ordinary girl from the Jew family, asking curiously, "Miss, what happened just now? What is everyone talking about?" The girl was listening intently to someone boasting, and when she was suddenly grabbed, annoyance flickered across her face. She glanced at Su Hao, about to retort with, "Can't you listen yourself?" But when she saw Su's handsome face and imposing demeanor, she swallowed the words and revealed a bright and sweet smile, looking like a cute little girl. She said, "Hey, mister, what do you want to know? I'll tell you everything." Su Hao raised an eyebrow, suppressing the strange feeling, and managed a forced smile, saying, "I heard someone say that Mingzi was captured. Do you know what happened?" The girl stared directly into Su's face, her eyes fixed on him, as if she were sizing him up. With an expression that seemed to say, "You are asking the right person." She said, "Of course, I know. Just a while ago, someone had a grand battle with Mingzi, the big boss, up in the sky. It was an extraordinary scene, truly dazzling. I can't imagine what it's like to fly up into the sky." Su Hao exclaimed, "Someone could actually go head to head with Mingzi. That's amazing. Who was it? Was it one of the other big bosses in the city?" The girl giggled and said, "It's too crowded and noisy here. How about we go somewhere quiet? I'll treat you to some fruit juice." Wasn't this a bit too fast and direct? Su Hao became more cautious. This girl must have some ulterior motive, either for his beauty or his beauty. He couldn't let her succeed with just a glass of fruit juice. Su Hao shook his head and said, "No, thanks. I'm not thirsty." The girl wasn't discouraged at all and said with a slight hint of annoyance, "Well, how about we go sit over there? We can chat more once we're there. Don't worry, I understand your curiosity, and I'm very understanding." After some hesitation, Su Hao nodded and said, "Okay." So, Su Hao followed the girl and arrived at a pond, where they sat on a bench. It was relatively quiet here, with clear water in the pond, visible fish swimming, and water plants resembling lotus leaves decorating the surface, along with several vibrant flowers. Su Hao couldn't believe that this girl had brought him to such a picturesque place. He was starting to regret his choice. Of all the people to ask, he ended up with a girl who seemed to be lusting after his looks. Su Hao wanted to get back to the main topic and ask his question again. The somewhat above-average-looking girl, named Xiaobu, introduced herself with a beaming smile, saying, "I'm Xiaobu. What's your name?" Su Hao took a deep breath, trying to calm his restless emotions, and slowly asked, "My name is Wei. Can you tell me what happened earlier? Could it have been one of the other bosses in the city, or who else has the strength to fight Mingzi?" Su Hao tried to steer the conversation toward other level 7 mutants, but Xiaobu seemed to have difficulty understanding him. Su Hao realized that he was more comfortable holding a knife to someone's throat and asking questions directly. These polite conversations didn't suit him well. Every time the girl veered off topic, he wanted to pull out a knife and get straight to the point. Xiaobu covered her mouth, chuckling and said, "Wait, that's a unique name, very nice." Su Hao thought her focus was all wrong. He tried to ask the question once more, and if she didn't answer, he planned to leave right away. His tone became much calmer as he asked, word by word, "Do you know where Life Bearer is?" Xiaobu instinctively replied, "Of course." Then, with curiosity in her eyes, she looked at Su Hao and said, "He's at the Dongling Pavilion. Who doesn't know that in Huxing? You're quite funny, pretending not to know." Su Hao managed to hold back his discomfort and asked directly, "Where is the Dongling Pavilion?" Can you take me there? Xiaobu's eyes lit up. She thought he wanted to go for a walk with her, which was too fast and direct for her liking. She was delighted and said, sure. We can walk and talk on the way. Su Hao stood up and said, lead the way. Su Hao realized that with his handsome face, he didn't need any special skills to chat with Xiaobu. Whenever he had a request, he could express it in the simplest way, as everything was already evident from his face. The more he talked, the further away from the main topic Xiaobu's information seemed to drift. It seems that good-looking people don't need any skills to flirt, and the same applies in reverse. So, Xiaobu happily led Su Hao on a stroll through Huxing City, with the ultimate goal being the Dongling Pavilion. After a short walk, Su Hao locked onto his target. Xiaobu had led him to the east, and in the east there was only one level 7 vitality response. There was no doubt that this person was Life-Bearer. Having confirmed his target, Su Hao no longer rushed. Instead, he engaged in casual conversation with Xiaobu. Does this Life-Bearer usually go out shopping? Xiaobu replied, it seems you're not from around here. I've heard that Life-Bearer is an old man with a lot of influence in Huxing. He usually stays at the Dongling Pavilion and doesn't attend any major events. I've grown up here, but I've seen him only a few times. Su Hao furrowed his brow and asked, can we enter the Dongling Pavilion? Xiaobu said, no, the Dongling Pavilion doesn't allow outsiders to enter. Security is tight. Wei Ji, do you want to get into the Dongling Pavilion? What do you plan to do inside? Su Hao casually replied, yes, I want to meet Life-Bearer. However, he was beginning to feel troubled. If Life-Bearer remained inside the Dongling Pavilion, he would have to force his way in to meet him. But once he did that, Mingzi would undoubtedly become wary, leading to an inevitable confrontation. Just then, Xiaobu casually remarked, want to meet Life-Bearer. That's simple. MS Hao inquired, simple. Xiaobu replied matter-of-factly, of course, in 3 days, Waxing City will hold the Autumn Harvest Grand Festival, and it needs to be presided over by Child of Fate boss. It's the same every year. You'll get to see him then. Su Hao nodded and silently thought, do I have to wait 3 more days? I guess I can accept that. Xiaobu curiously asked, do you admire Child of Fate boss? Su Hao nodded, saying, seems like it. He seems pretty formidable. TLN. There are 2 Mingzi in the previous chapter, so I changed the name of one of them to its evolution name Life-Bearer to avoid confusion. Mingzi, Child of Clarity from Nightwalker sequence. Mingzi, Child of Fate aka Life-Bearer from Shell People sequence. But now I'll use its translation name. Xiaobu had stars in her eyes and said, indeed, Boss Child of Fate is our guardian deity in Waxing City. Everyone says that without him, we wouldn't be where we are today. Maybe seeing Su Hao's confusion in his eyes, Xiaobu proudly explained, Waxing City wasn't like this before. I heard that it used to be very chaotic, with many outsiders causing destruction and fighting during both day and night. Many people died every day. But since the leader of the Child of Fate arrived, Waxing City changed into what you see now. Look how good it is. I really like it here. Su Hao nodded and asked, what about the other child? Don't they protect Waxing along with the leader of the Child of Fate? Xiaobu continued, I'm not sure, but I've heard others say that as long as Boss Child of Fate is around, the other 3 leaders, Mingzi, Chengzi, and Jings, get along peacefully. But, you see, Boss Child of Fate is already quite old. I don't know how much longer he can keep it up. I don't really understand it, but I just feel that Boss Child of Fate is very important. If power and spirit are not passed down, everything built will gradually disappear with time. The Dongling Pavilion wasn't closed, but Xiaobu chatted with Su Hao as they walked, and she didn't feel tired. In fact, she became very excited because Su Hao was willing to accompany her and talk to her, and her gaze towards him grew increasingly fervent. This kind of flirtatious look made Su Hao feel uneasy, and he unconsciously distanced himself a bit, but Xiaobu kept following him everywhere they went. Perhaps this is the dilemma of being handsome. The saying, you run, he chases, even with wings, you can't fly away, turned out to be true. After wandering Dongling Pavilion with Xiaobu, Su Hao couldn't bear it any longer and said, Xiaobu, thank you for telling me so much today. We'll meet again. With that, he turned to leave. Xiaobu panicked, rushed up to him, and grabbed his sleeve, saying, you haven't told me where I can find you. Su Hao calmly pulled his sleeve back and replied, no need to find me, I'll be leaving Waxing City in a few days. Ignoring Xiaobu, he blended into the crowd and disappeared. Xiaobu stood there, watching Su Hao vanish, feeling a sense of loss she couldn't put into words. After a while, someone patted her shoulder from behind. She turned to see, Brother Wei. Xiaobu could hardly believe who she saw, and this feeling of unexpected joy instantly reinvigorated her. Su Hao handed her a bag of money and said, Xiaobu, thank you for taking me so far today. This is your reward. Please take it. After that, Su Hao turned and disappeared into the crowd once again. Xiaobu held the bag of money and stood still, feeling that her feelings had been tainted by money. After a moment, she shook the bag of money and surprisingly thought, it's not bad at all. Double harvest today, I've earned. Waiting for 3 more days shouldn't be a problem, especially since Su Hao still needed to find more information about the Child of Fate and the Autumn Harvest Grand Festival. He couldn't rely solely on Xiaobu's unreliable information. But the results he obtained, while differing in some aspects, had 2 consistent points. The Autumn Harvest Grand Festival was indeed happening in 3 days, and it would most likely be presided over by the leader of the Child of Fate, just like in previous years. Because Su Hao had discovered that after killing the leader of a significant force in Waxing City, the Child of Clarity Mingzi, the city should have fallen into a certain degree of chaos. However, it was quickly pacified, indicating how strong the control of the Child of Fate over Waxing City was. Waxing City's affairs were still led by the Child of Fate. Su Hao also noticed that in the past 2 days, more and more people had entered Waxing City. The streets were overcrowded, and if he had arrived just 3 days later, he might not have found a place to stay. Furthermore, Su Hao sensed an increasing number of powerful 6th-level mutants in his radar, which gave him a sense that something unusual was happening. He also remembered what the Earth Lord he had killed in Linyuan City had said, predicting the imminent death of the Child of Fate in Waxing City. It seemed that not only the Earth Lord from Anling City but also Earth Lords from across the continent were converging here, waiting for the Child of Fate to die. Of course, it wasn't just the Earth Lord, other 6th-level mutants probably came too, expecting a big battle to break out, seizing the opportunity. One should not assume that evolving from a 6th-level mutant to a Life-Bearer is simple just because Su Hao and Yashin evolved very smoothly. In fact, the mortality rate for ordinary mutants attempting to evolve is quite high. To reach the next level, mutants must continually accumulate vital energy to reach a certain threshold for use in evolution. Su Hao had a special way to accumulate vital energy, but people in this world didn't. To enhance their vital energy, they had to kill mutants of the same level and plunder fragments of their genetic code. However, once you reach the 6th level, mutants of the same level aren't that easy to kill. Some 6th level mutants can stand still and be impervious to attacks. Therefore, for 6th level mutants, there are two major challenges to evolution. The first is accumulating vital energy, and the second is the nearly impossible task of consuming the flesh of 7th level mutants. These two challenges almost stop the vast majority of 6th level mutants from advancing. Only the lucky ones favored by fate, commonly known as protagonists, can overcome these difficulties and ultimately achieve evolution, becoming 7th level mutants. So, for 6th level mutants who want to evolve, the most important thing is to have access to reliable information. They usually like to occupy a city and establish an organization to collect information for themselves. Then, wherever there's something happening, you'll find their presence. They search the world for opportunities to evolve and aspire to become the top-ranked mutants on the continent. Su Hao sighed. The ordinary people of Waxing City hope the Child of Fate lives well, but almost all the prepared Earth Lords hope for the Child of Fate's death. No matter what he did, there were always people hoping for the best and others hoping for the worst. Visit novelbin.co/m for the latest updates. These past 2 days, Su Hao didn't do anything else but enjoy traveling, experiencing exotic customs and witnessing the diversity of human life. On the night before the Autumn Harvest Grand Festival, inside a study room at the Dongling Pavilion, an old man sat in the main seat, his bald head shining, no hair on his head, short white curly beard, his face full of wrinkles, and his skin dry and aged. The fine hairs on his earlobes had fallen out, making him look like an ordinary elderly man in appearance. However, his entire presence exuded immense power. Just sitting there, he made people dare not look into his eyes. This elderly body, with all its signs of aging, held unimaginable strength, the same power that had made countless mutants shiver. Even though he was old, no one dared to challenge his authority. He was the Child of Fate of Waxing City, Xiao. Standing in front of Child of Fate Xiao was a middle-aged man, his son, the Earth Lord Ji. Child of Fate Xiao didn't speak, he simply pushed a tray forward. Earth Lord Ji saw what was on the tray, and his pupils contracted. A surge of electricity rushed to his brain, followed by immense joy filling his heart. He knew that it was the flesh and blood of the Child of Fate swallowing it would allow him to evolve into the ultimate form of the Shell People sequence. The Earth Lord, he would also become the new ruler of this city and a top figure in the world. He had waited for this day for too long. But as this excitement appeared, he suppressed it, not daring to reveal any signs of it. Instead, he pretended to ask in confusion, Child of Fate Xiao, this is... Yes, as a son, he didn't even dare to call his father. Su Hao's perception had always been focused on the movements of the Child of Fate. With his eyes closed and his mind on tomorrow's operation, Su Hao suddenly opened his eyes. Discover new chapters on N0 Fei Bincom. Someone is evolving. He sensed that one of the 6th level blood energy mutant next to the Child of Fate was undergoing an evolution. This surprised him greatly, especially because there was no reaction from the Child of Fate. He had observed the evolution of mutants many times and knew the changes in blood energy during their evolution. There was no doubt. Could it be that the Child of Fate has been captured and controlled? He thought about it and didn't rule out the possibility, although it seemed unlikely. The Child of Fate had survived for this long, indicating his unique abilities. Tomorrow was the Autumn Harvest Grand Festival, and as the local power, the Child of Fate must have sensed the gathering of many Earth Lords and taken precautions. Not to mention that Su Hao had kidnapped Child of Clarity, who had yet to return. In this situation, not taking any precautions and being easily controlled would be improbable, as it would have jeopardized his survival. After thinking for a moment, Su Hao quickly came up with a new speculation. The disappearance of the Child of Clarity must have heightened the alertness of the Child of Fate and other 7th level mutant. Perhaps the Child of Fate is worried about unexpected events and has chosen an heir voluntarily. Having figured this out, Su Hao paid no further attention to it. He set up protective alerts and went to sleep slowly. Even as a powerful mutant, staying up late was not advisable. For him, what the people in the city wanted to do was inconsequential. He wanted one simple thing, a piece of the Child of Fate, and preferably without intense combat that would harm the city and its civilians. When the time came, he would find a way to get close to the Child of Fate, control him, and then make his escape. With his speed, the opponent would give up once they realized they couldn't catch him, and there would be no opportunity for battle. On the other side, two people sat facing each other from a distance, appearing friendly but also wary of each other. These were the other two 7th level mutants in Huxing City, the ever-changing Child of Constant Wisdom, Cheng Zai from the Silk People sequence, and the incredibly fast Child of Tranquility, Yui from the Speed People sequence. When Child of Tranquility was still at the 5th level in the Speed People sequence, he was completely suppressed by the Mind Control King in the Silk People sequence. However, once he reached the 6th or 7th level, they were evenly matched. 6th level mutant already had a concept of their territory. For example, Child of Tranquility at the 7th level could bounce off anything approaching his body, creating an absolute territory. Even if Child of Constant Wisdom deployed razor-sharp threads throughout the space, they couldn't cut through Child of Tranquility directly. They would be repelled before reaching his body. In addition to the ability of blood resistance, it was difficult for both sides to easily kill each other, barring a surprise attack. Child of Tranquility Yui was a tall, slender middle-aged man with prominent cheekbones and sunken eyes, as if he had been sleep-deprived for years, toying with a teacup in his hand. Child of Constant Wisdom Cheng Zai was completely shrouded in a high collar, with only meticulously combed hair and a pair of sharp eyes visible. After a moment of silence, Child of Tranquility Yui stamped his foot and said slowly, Constant Wisdom, now that Child of Clarity has been captured by the armored man, the situation doesn't look good. We lack the means to break through the Child of Fate's diamond armor defense. Should we proceed with tomorrow's plan as usual? Child of Constant Wisdom Cheng Zai responded calmly, if you don't mind having another Child of Fate on top of us in the future, then do as you wish. Child of Tranquility Yui sneered, why do you talk as if I'm the only one who has to kill that old man? Constant Wisdom, let me tell you, if you want a pleasant cooperation, adjust your attitude. Otherwise, none of us will be happy. Child of Constant Wisdom Cheng Zai ignored him and said, tomorrow is the last chance. After the Grand Festival, the Child of Fate will undoubtedly choose a new heir. At that point, it will be too late for us. We must kill him before he passes on his blood and inheritance. Child of Tranquility Yui's muscles all over his body moved irregularly, and he tilted his head, saying, of course, but the problem now is that we're missing Child of Clarity as a helper, and we have a mysterious armored man to deal with. Constant Wisdom, are you confident? Child of Constant Wisdom Cheng Zai replied calmly, I have no confidence, but I have at least an 80% chance of success. Besides, I suspect the armored man is the Child of Fate in disguise. Child of Tranquility Yui coldly laughed, 80%. Don't overestimate yourself. Child of Constant Wisdom Cheng Zai said, I've already taken control of 5 Earth Lords who came from elsewhere. They can serve as a distraction. Child of Tranquility Yui immediately made a decision. Then let's do it your way. After saying that, he kicked over a crate, and a long, transparent crystal chain slid out of it. Child of Tranquility Yui laughed and said, here's the diamond chain you wanted. Child of Constant Wisdom Chang's eye didn't show any movement either. The crystal chain, as if grabbed by an invisible hand, slowly flew toward him and eventually disappeared under his sleeve. He calmly said, then I shall go ahead. Having said that, Child of Constant Wisdom Chang's eye turned into a pile of fine threads, gradually dissipating. It was clear that his true body had not come here. Instead, he had created a surrogate with threads. Child of Tranquility Yui stamped his foot, and his shoulders began to shake uncontrollably. He couldn't hold back and burst into laughter. Early the next morning, almost every household began their sacrificial activities. The Autumn Harvest Grand Festival, organized jointly by various major factions in the city, was held in front of the Grand Hall in the city square. It attracted not only members of the factions but also many commoners who gathered to watch the ceremony. The square was packed with people. Su Hao had managed to blend in with the crowd and was continually pushing forward to secure a relatively front row position. In reality, once you got close to the front, faction members in charge of order would prevent ordinary civilians from coming any closer. But based on Su Hao's glamorous appearance and heroic demeanor, everyone assumed he was some young master of a major faction, and no one tried to drive him away. In these 2 days, Su Hao had learned in Huxing City how important a beautiful appearance could be. He thought that perhaps the first step in reincarnation should involve some gene tweaking for a better-looking face. Being handsome might even increase your chances of survival by 10%. All 3 of the city's 7th-level mutant were present, and the vacant position of Child of Clarity had been filled by a 6th-level mutant. No, it should be said that there were 4 7th-level mutant, as another 7th-level mutant, Child of Fate G, had suddenly appeared last night. However, besides the 2 Child of Fates themselves, only Su Hao knew about it. Everyone else was kept in the dark. Tian Ji is the son of the life bearer Shio from the He has evolved into a 7th-level mutant, as mentioned in the first paragraph. The ceremony began soon, and its complexity left Su Hao feeling dizzy and overwhelmed. However, he understood that only an exceptionally complex sacrificial procedure could truly reflect the sincerity of the heart. This way, the divine beings could sense people's earnestness and fulfill the humble desires of mortals. Su Hao continued to look around, pretending to be interested, but he was actually searching for the right moment to strike. His super multi-layered second-level lightning had been prepared for a long time, ensuring that the advanced mutant around him had no chance to resist. But Su Hao had to wait for the right moment because, for the people of the Zuo clan, this Autumn Harvest Grand Festival was of great importance. Su Hao assumed they would at least finish the ceremony before taking any action. He didn't mind the slight delay. Interrupting someone's sacred ritual would be very impolite. However, Su Hao intended to be polite, but someone else did not. The earth slowly undulated and turned into bundles of fine threads, which, at the moment when Child of Fate was kneeling down to worship, wound around him, lifting him high into the air. Meanwhile, Child of Fate had transformed into a dazzling suit of diamond armor, completely enveloping his body. The threads that bound him allowed no progress, no matter how tightly they were pulled. Although this had been expected, the sudden turn of events still enraged Child of Fate. He roared, "Constant wisdom, how dare you!" The unexpected turn of events caused ordinary people to panic, and they began to flee. Based on their experience, if they didn't run fast, they might not run at all. Low-level mutant also scattered in all directions. When big shots fought, no one dared to intervene. It was like a standoff between 2 descendants. Anyone who tried to mediate would die, leaving the 2 of them without any trouble. Su Hao's eyes lit up. The opportunity he was waiting for had arrived. The Child of Fate Shio roared loudly and was about to break free from his restraints. However, he suddenly noticed that the thin threads entangling him were intertwined with a shining adamantium chain. He widened his eyes and blurted out, "Lock of Destiny adamantium chain." Damn it. This extremely rare adamantium crystal was the most potent and lethal substance for the Child of Fate. It was powerful because when the Child of Fate Shio transformed, his armor took on the appearance of adamantium crystal and gained its impenetrable hardness, making it nearly indestructible. The lethality came from the fact that this naturally occurring adamantium crystal was nearly indestructible. Even with the Child of Fate's immense strength, he couldn't break free. Furthermore, the blood and flesh transformation used by Child of Fate couldn't convert natural adamantium into transformative adamantium. It was perfect for restraining the Child of Fate. Once ensnared by the Lock of Destiny adamantium chain, his feet left the ground, rendering him nearly immobile, like a lamb awaiting slaughter. However, this particular lamb was quite tough, and the executioner might not be able to breach his defenses. Crackle, crackle. Suddenly, sparks erupted from the Child of Fate. His neck, his adamantium armor at that spot tore apart, but it immediately restored itself. This was the work of Child of Tranquility Yui, a 7th-level mutant of speedster sequence. Although Child of Tranquility Yui, invisibly fast to the human eye, made a swift strike on the Child of Fate's neck, it didn't have much effect on the latter. From within his large robe, Child of Constant Wisdom, Chang's eye extended a hand, splayed his 5 fingers, and then closed them. 5 black crystal-armored Earth Lords immediately jumped out from the crowd and rushed towards Child of Fate. These 5 Earth Lords were intended to consume the Child of Fate Shio vitality. Child of Constant Wisdom, Chang's eye's plan was perfect. In his view, the Child of Fate Shio was destined to suffer a calamity this time. The initial plan was for him to launch the first attack, restrain the Child of Fate, followed by Child of Clarity piercing the armor, Child of Tranquility rapidly launching attacks to thoroughly break the defense, and finally, they would swiftly deplete the Child of Fate's energy and finish him off. But who knew that Child of Clarity was inexplicably taken away, leaving a gap in his plan for how to break the Child of Fate's formidable defense and rapidly consume his energy. However, it seemed that fate favored him as 5 Earth Lords arrived. He could use their blood and flesh assimilation to corrode the Child of Fate's adamantium armor. With mutual energy offset under the same origin, they could quickly consume the Child of Fate's energy and eventually kill him. Get your favorite novels at no/b/e/helping.com. It was a perfectly executed plan so far. Child of Fate Shio was doomed. However, just as Child of Constant Wisdom and the others believed they had the upper hand, an unexpected guest entered the battlefield. The moment this unexpected guest entered the scene, everyone's attention was drawn to the figure, including the Child of Fate suspended helplessly in midair. The reason for the attention wasn't because of the Earth Lord itself, but because of the remarkable armor it wore. It was so dazzling. With its sleek lines, incredibly stylish design, and subtle engravings that seemed to appear and disappear, it dazzled everyone to the point where they couldn't even open their eyes. Even the shiny adamantine armor worn by the highest ranking of the Shell People sequence, Child of Fate Shio, paled in comparison to this Earth Lord's. Everyone had the same thought, this armor is so cool. It turned out that such a stylish armor existed in the world. The moment Su Hao entered the scene, he transformed everything within a radius of 300 meters into his transformed black crystal. This included everyone present, including the other nervous child of fate, G. He was hesitating whether to save his father child of fate, Shio. Within the transformed black crystal radius, rune patterns were drawn within less than 2 seconds. Ding. The adamantine armor around Suha's neck was subjected to a fierce attack, producing a string of flames. Huh. That was fast. Suha only realized at this moment that he had been attacked by Child of Tranquility, Yui. Child of Tranquility, Yui, who was moving at high speed, was even more surprised than Suha. It's so tough. I can't break through its defenses at all. Meanwhile, Child of Constant Wisdom, Chang Zai, furrowed his brow because he found his thread domain had been disrupted and seized. He released a large number of thread surges from within his body, entangling Suha. No matter who it is, kill him first. Thunder Domain. At that moment, Suha completed the rune domain, activating all the runes within it. Crackle, hiss. Sizzle, sizzle, sizzle. A powerful electric current instantly swept through the entire area, causing everyone to convulse, go numb, and lose control of their bodies. This included the high-speed Child of Tranquility, Yui, who, upon losing control, was sent crashing into the distance. He was about to escape the Thunder Domain when a thick black crystal wall appeared on the periphery, intercepting Child of Tranquility, Yui within. Uh-oh. Everyone felt the loss of control over their bodies and realized the situation was dire. It was at this moment that Suha smiled and said, "Excuse me, everyone. I'm just here to take something, and then I'll be on my way." Just as Suha spoke, everyone gradually regained control over their bodies. They were about to make a move. Crackle, sizzle, sizzle. Another wave of electrical shock swept through, causing people to convulse once more. All the 6th-level mutants on the scene fell to the ground. Chang Zai's thin threads under the second lightning strike began to soften and lose control. The suspended Child of Fate, Ji, also fell to the ground. Suha maintained the frequency of 1 lightning strike every 2 seconds, pulling out a long knife and walking toward Child of Fate, Shio. Child of Fate, Shio stared at Suha silently, his voice hoarse and trembling, as if it took great effort to speak. "You're the one who took the armor of Child of Clarity, right?" Suha was surprised by the opponent's strong physical resilience and originally didn't intend to answer. But considering that he still needed to harvest the man's flesh, he politely nodded and said, "Yes." In that moment, Suha felt a sharp pain in his feet, followed by numbness that spread upward uncontrollably. By the time Suha realized what was happening, he had crawled up to his knees. Thinking quickly, Suha decisively swung his blade and cut off his own legs at the base of the thighs. Simultaneously, a black crystal pillar rose from the ground, knocking Suha away from Child of Fate, Shio. As this happened, the Thunder Domain was filled with lightning, tormenting everyone inside. As Suha landed from midair, his legs grew back, fully restored. But he couldn't help but feel astonished, wondering, what was that just now? Looking at his severed feet, the black crystal armor had completely faded away, leaving him shriveled and looking like the body of an elderly person on the brink of death, covered in age spots. It seemed like whatever power Child of Fate, Shio, had used was extremely draining. Those who witnessed the entire process couldn't hide their evident disappointment upon seeing Suha escape. It seems like the electric power wasn't enough. Suha increased his blood energy output again, releasing a frenzy of lightning upon the people. Crackle, crackle, a series of explosions followed. Suha stood in place, vigilant, as he watched Child of Fate, Shio, who was completely engulfed by the lightning. "I can't get near this old guy. I don't know what kind of mysterious ability he has, but it's too dangerous. Remote control it is." With that in mind, Suha immediately controlled the transformed black crystal to generate a pair of scissors. Added to them were level 2 sharp, level 2 penetration, and level 2 hardness. He aimed the scissors at Child of Fate, Zez's arm, and severed it. Crack. The arm fell to the ground, struck by a black crystal pillar, and Suha caught it. Taking a closer look, he remarked, "Hey. It's all adamantium armor. Where's the flesh? This old guy is really cunning." After Suha casually stored the information about the adamantium armor in his sphere, he continued to engage with Child of Fate, Shio. Following Child of Fate, Zez's usage of an unknown ability against Suha, he became quite weakened. After several attempts, Suha successfully cut off a significant chunk of his flesh. Once Suha was confident about this, he was about to leave. However, he noticed Child of Tranquility, Yui, and Child of Constant Wisdom, Chang Zai, lying in the Thunder Domain, twitching from the electric shocks. He immediately stopped. For the sake of fairness, let's all cut off a piece of flesh, Suha thought. He directly sliced a piece of meat from the thickest part of their arms. After wrapping them with the black crystal armor, Suha retreated slowly. "All right, everyone, I apologize for any inconvenience. I'm extremely grateful for your contributions, and perhaps we'll meet again." Saying this, he didn't care about how the people reacted and quickly left the area. He found a concealed spot in the distance before releasing his control over the Thunder Domain. He didn't leave at this point but stayed to observe any subsequent changes. If the ongoing battle posed a significant threat, he would return to eliminate everyone and put an end to the turmoil. However, as soon as Suha released his control, the first person to regain mobility was Child of Fate, Shio. He abruptly stood up, roaring, "Child of Constant Wisdom, Chang Zai, how dare you betray our agreement and launch an attack on me? Then you shall all die." As his words fell, everything within a 500-meter radius turned into a world of adamantium, dazzling and breathtaking. Child of Constant Wisdom, Chang Zai, and Child of Tranquility, Yui, who had just recovered from their paralysis, stared down in horror at the radiant adamantium armor beneath them. They scrambled to their feet, using all their abilities to escape. They knew how terrifying Child of Fate, Shio, could be when he went all out. Staying within his realm was equivalent to a death sentence. In reality, Child of Fate, Shio, was only 70 years old, which, among the Juwa people, was considered middle-aged and certainly not elderly. However, his aged appearance was due to the frequent use of an ability that drained his life force called Decay. It was an ability that Child of Fate, Shio, enjoyed using in life or death battles, trading his lifespan for the life of his opponent. It was a deal he considered worthwhile no matter how you looked at it. But this time, it was different. With Child of Fate, Shio, suspended in midair, there was no chance for him to activate the adamantium realm. In a normal situation, Child of Fate, Shio would never have such a chance because, as soon as Child of Fate activates the diamond armor field, they would immediately escape the range. There is no way they would be decayed by Child of Fate as attack. However, an unexpected turn of events occurred when a mysterious Earth Lord used a mysterious method to immobilize everyone. Their hard-earned victory had slipped through their fingers, stolen from them at the last moment. At this moment, Child of Fate, Shio was in a state of complete eruption. He had used up almost all of his lifespan to activate decay with full force. The bodies of Child of Constant Wisdom, Chang Zai, and Child of Tranquility, Yui, gradually lost their vitality, rapidly withering and decaying, and their massive blood energy couldn't put up any resistance. As they just managed to run out of the adamantium realm, they lost all their strength and fell to the ground. Surprisingly, they were still alive. Their muscles had shrunk, their skin had lost its vitality, and they looked like elderly people on the brink of death, with wrinkled skin enveloping their bones, making it difficult for them to stand up. Child of Tranquility, Yui, looked at Child of Constant Wisdom, Chang Zai, with despair in his eyes. He weakly pointed at Child of Constant Wisdom, Chang Zai, and struggled to open his mouth, saying, "You, Chang Zai. You said we had an 80% chance of success, but you lied to me? Why aren't you dead yet? Hurry up and die." Even as he was on the verge of death, Child of Constant Wisdom, Chang Zai, remained calm. In a hoarse voice, he said, "It's coming." Child of Tranquility, Yui, looked at Chang Zai with resentment. He said, "You should die first. Only when I see you die first can I rest in peace." Child of Constant Wisdom, Chang Zai said, "My judgment is right. I am indeed 80% sure, but we encountered that 20% accident. If you die, you will die. There is nothing to say." Child of Tranquility, Yui, didn't speak anymore, trying to struggle to get up but having no strength. Meanwhile, Child of Fate, Chio, who had used the decay ability with all his might, had his adamantium armor losing its luster and gradually transforming into exceptionally aged skin, turning him from a tall, formidable figure into a frail old man in the blink of an eye. He had used up his entire life force, sending off the two old friends he had struggled against his whole life. Satisfied with his efforts, he mustered the last of his strength, looked at Chang Zai, who had fallen some distance away, and let out a hoarse voice, "Ji, Bo, he calls his son." At this point, he no longer had the strength to continue speaking. That's when the new Child of Fate, Ji, his son, stepped forward. He wore a wicked smile, his bloodshot eyes fixed on the dying three individuals. His smile gradually twisted into madness. He had never dreamed that today would turn into this kind of scenario. Not only had he successfully evolved into a Child of Fate, but he had also wiped out the several level 7 mutants who had been thorns in the side of Huxing City. He burst into maniacal laughter, saying, "You high and mighty fools also have your day. Haha. All of you die. From today on, I am the sole god of Huxing City. Haha. Open your eyes and take a good look. Who is the ultimate victor now? Who? Tell me. Did you see it? I am the god favored by heaven." He then approached his father, Child of Fate Ji. With a satisfied look on his face, he said, "Chio, I'm fed up with taking orders from you. I hate you, my hypocritical father. Did you think that I'd be grateful for the flesh and blood you bestowed on me to evolve? You don't understand. I wanted it because I wanted it, not because you gave it to me. Do you understand? Why didn't you give it to me when I wanted it? Instead, you made me wait for over 20 years. Do you know how I spent those 20+ years?" A spear like adamantium spike emerged in the hand of Child of Fate Ji. He roared loudly, "Chio, I wish I could kill you with my own hands." However, Child of Fate Chio wore a smile and silently listened to his complaints. The light of life in his eyes gradually dimmed until it was extinguished. With his body full of resentment and grievances, Ji fell into a rage. Under his feet, the ground turned into adamantium and rapidly spread outward, with countless spikes emerging from underground. They pierced Child of Constant Wisdom, Chang Zai, and Child of Tranquility, Yui, who were on the verge of death, killing them outright. Even after killing Chang Zai and Yui, Child of Fate Ji was not satisfied. He wanted to vent further, announcing the birth of this new Child of Fate. The adamantium realm continued to expand outward, destroying everything in its path. "Hey, that's enough." Suddenly, a faint voice sounded. Child of Fate Ji became alert. Why did this voice sound familiar? Su Hao, wearing black crystal armor, descended from the sky. He kicked Child of Fate Ji into the air. As Ji was still flying, Su Hao caught up with him and raised his foot, sending Ji soaring high into the air. The black sand dispersing in the air continuously gathered and entangled Ji's body, carrying him higher. Follow new stories at no/VELB/com. However, Su Hao was aware that Child of Fate had an ability that could drain the life force of others. He was reluctant to get too close to this newly born Child of Fate. In case this Child of Fate had also mastered the life and death ability, taking him away could be disastrous. So attacking from a distance seemed like a safer option. With these thoughts in mind, Su Hao extended his hand, and black crystal armor grew to form a long and thick black crystal tube, pointing into the sky. This is a super large gun barrel that Su Hao created casually. The caliber reaches 50 millimeters, and the bullets it fires can engrave at least 3 runes, producing various effects. Su Hao specially designed it for long-range attacks on special targets, which he calls the rune cannon. For example, this newborn Child of Fate can't be easily approached. His shell is extremely tough, and he possesses great vitality, much like an indestructible pest. Using the rune cannon is the perfect way to deal with him. Su Hao gradually generates a projectile similar to a mortar shell and then engraves 3 runes on the projectile: level 2 oscillation, level 2 rotation, level 2 collapse. These 3 runes are the most effective against the super strong regenerative power of the Shell People sequence, as Su Hao discovered through testing. As long as the projectile can penetrate the opponent's body and sequentially trigger these 3 runes, it can instantly destroy a large amount of flesh and blood inside the shell, rendering it unrecoverable and depleting the opponent's life force. Even with the strongest regenerative power, it is difficult to repair the damage caused by these 3 runes. Su Hao estimates that at most 3 projectiles can bring a powerful Child of Fate to the brink of death. Su Hao inserts the projectile into the breach and locks it. He inputs blood essence, activates level 2 penetration and level 2 hardening attached to the projectile, and simultaneously activates the 3 delayed runes on the projectile. Distort view opens, and he raises the cannon barrel, locking onto the struggling Child of Fate target's chest in midair. He fine-tunes the time using the data provided by Little Light. 3, 2, 1. Level 2 5-fold eruption activated. Boom. A loud explosion resonates. Su Hao is struck by the powerful recoil, and the ground beneath his feet cracks into a large circle. At the same time, the diamond-like shell in the chest of Child of Fate Ji shatters, creating a huge cavity. The projectile successfully shatters the diamond-like shell on Child of Fate Ji's chest and penetrates his body. In the next moment, the 3 runes engraved on the projectile explode suddenly with minimal timing error. And the flesh and blood wrapped in the thick diamond shell of Child of Fate Ji, at the moment of the rune's explosion, is helplessly turned into useless pulp and then collapses into a tiny mass. And Child of Fate Ji instantly loses all signs of life. This result differs slightly from what Su Hao had imagined, where 3 projectiles would be required to kill him. In Su Hao's imagination, once the projectile entered the opponent's body, the runes would definitely split the opponent in 2 from the chest, and the head and legs would remain intact at least, at which point a substantial amount of vital energy would be consumed, leaving a chance for regeneration and repair. Unexpectedly, the result is somewhat different from what Su Hao had anticipated. Child of Fate Ji, in panic, generated a large amount of diamond armor to protect himself, with a defense too powerful. The projectile did not tear his body apart as expected but rather wreaked havoc in an almost sealed internal space, instantly turning all the flesh and blood enveloped within the diamond shell into useless juice, including the brain and limbs. Death couldn't be more final. Su Hao only realized this after taking the opponent's body apart. He suddenly felt that advanced mutants were not as difficult to kill as he had imagined. As long as he aimed accurately, he could deliver a fatal blow. Su Hao put away the gun barrel, collected the bodies of Child of Fate Xiu, Child of Constant Wisdom Changzai, and Child of Tranquility Yui, looked at the surrounding battlefield scene, and nodded approvingly. Not much damage. Within the controlled range. As for the final development of the situation, it was something Su Hao hadn't expected. Discover new stories on no/v/e/helbin.com. When he controlled everyone with the Thunder Field, he had never thought of killing them all because his goal was to obtain the flesh and blood he wanted, not to kill people. The remaining grudges and disputes belonged to them, and he had nothing to do with them as long as they didn't cause widespread destruction. It was evident that the battles between Child of Fate Xiu, Child of Constant Wisdom Changzai, and Child of Tranquility Yui were all controlled within a very small range, and they have a tacit understanding not to cause a lot of damage. What he didn't expect was that the other side would mutually annihilate themselves, and then there was this seemingly pent-up idiot who wanted to vent. Su Hao didn't hesitate and swiftly went forward to finish him off. As for the bodies, they naturally became his materials. 8 sequences of 7th level mutants Child of Fate, Child of Constant Wisdom, Child of Tranquility and Child of Clarity hiding outside the city have allowed him to harvest half of the sequences of extraordinary genes. This trip is very worthwhile. However, having all the 7 level mutants, the strongest in the super city, disappear inexplicably like this was something Su Hao didn't expect and didn't desire. Yet, in this unpredictable world, one must maintain a sense of awe. After retrieving Child of Clarity Mingzi's body from outside the city, Su Hao leapt into the clouds and disappeared into the distance. After Su Hao left, the previously quiet Huxing City Central Square attracted a large number of level 6 mutants who came to investigate the situation. They all knew that the opportunity to advance to level 7 might be right in front of them. With enough luck, they might seize a piece of flesh and blood and achieve evolution. But when they arrived at the city square, they found nothing except rubble, craters, and the remains of 5 Earth Lords. They dug 3 feet deep but found nothing. Where could they find the flesh and blood of level 7 mutants? Indeed, level 7 mutants wouldn't die so easily, and these level 6 mutants needed to patiently wait. However, unexpectedly, harvesting the 5 Earth Lords wasn't bad at all. They could consume them to enhance their energy. What no one knew was that the level 7 flesh and blood they eagerly hoped for had all been taken away by Su Hao in one go. Even if they waited until the end of time, they would never find it unless a level 7 mutant from another city brought them the flesh and blood. The Temple Forest City remained the same, with no significant changes. No one knew that in just a few days, Su Hao had brought back the flesh and blood of all the level 7 mutants in the entire super city. After returning to his laboratory, Su Hao didn't go out. He immediately started researching the bodies of these level 7 mutants, wanting to understand the mystery of the world's evolutionary endpoint. Soon, Su Hao discovered the difference in the extraordinary genes of level 7 mutants. Have all the extraordinary genes of the same sequence been integrated together? This different discovery left Su Hao extremely surprised. Originally evolved Earth Lord's genes hadn't undergone any changes. What had changed was that a new gene segment had appeared on the gene fragments. What was special was that this new gene segment was the integration of all the extraordinary gene fragments obtained from the first 6 levels. In the virtual space, Su Hao compared and observed while muttering to himself, level 7 genes essentially haven't added new segments, instead, they have reorganized the existing gene fragments. What do you call this? Unique fusion. Then Su Hao thought of another possibility. Among the Juhua mutants, there was a legend that beyond the highest level 7, there was another mutant realm known as, which means God. Could it be that if all the level 7 gene fragments from different sequences are integrated, there's a chance to evolve into a god? Su Hao became interested. This was a direction worth exploring. In reality, he was very interested in what Juhua people had described as God they described might be different from the one Su Hao imagined. So, if possible, Su Hao wanted to give it a try. Who knows, he might succeed. Su Hao revealed an expectant smile. First, evolve into Lifebearer, Child of Fate. Then, eliminate any troublemakers like evil children. Next, collect the genes of other level 7 mutants. Finally, try to become what they call God. Steady. This time, Su Hao doesn't intend to let Yashin evolve into a Child of Fate ahead of him because Child of Fate possesses a highly dangerous ability, which is decay. Within its domain, it is nearly invincible. Until Su Hao fully understands the workings of decay, he won't hand over such a perilous ability. The human heart can be controlled, but it can also be uncontrollable. Su Hao never conducts any tests of human nature. He considers it irresponsible to both himself and others. Su Hao believes that dissecting the heart and soul, exposing them to the sun, serves no purpose. Keeping them hidden, away from prying eyes, that's what makes the world colorful. After making preparations, Su Hao swallows flesh and starts evolving. You might wonder why he doesn't design his own genes and cultivate gene fluid for injection. He could do that, but Su Hao finds the method of devouring flesh to be more secure. It's not that he doesn't trust his own technology, but because there's too little data on the 7th level evolution process. If he had enough data, he wouldn't need flesh. He could achieve the evolution he desires at any time. Drowsiness hits, and Su Hao falls into a deep sleep. When he wakes up again, he discovers something different about himself. It's as if all the abilities he obtained previously have become innate instincts. They don't require conscious control and can be triggered at will. This difference is akin to driving a manual transmission car versus an automatic one. Manual driving requires synchronous use of hands and feet to perform various driving operations. But with automatic driving, a single command or thought is all it takes to automatically perform the desired driving operation. 7th level mutants are like automatic drivers. A mere thought triggers a bodily response, executing complex operations without the need for gradual formation like the Earth Lord. Child of Fate doesn't require these steps. Just imagine having a long knife in hand, any kind of knife, and the body's program activates, generating the desired shape. Suhao exclaims, biological intelligence program. So powerful. These new genes formed from superhuman gene combinations possess this astonishing ability, which is beyond Suha's expectations. And after his transformation, his black crystal armor loses its black color, turning into a transparent crystal with a faint white mist inside. It conceals what's inside, giving the entire suit a white appearance, making it look much more advanced than the black crystal armor. Suhao tests the strength. The diamond armor is approximately 1.5 times stronger than the black crystal armor, considerably reducing the amplification effect, almost reaching the limit of biological armor. But what concerns Suhao isn't this, it's the new special ability Decay acquired by Child of Fate. Suhao captures a small round mouse and activates Decay. Immediately, an invisible ripple emanates from the diamond armor, slowly spreading over the entire body of the small round mouse. The mouse rapidly ages, losing its fur, its eyes turning cloudy, and its flesh withering. It quickly dies. Suhao records the entire process, entering the pinball space to examine the differences before and after the ability's activation. After a while, Suhao gains some insight. At the cost of a significant amount of vitality and life force, it triggers a mysterious ripple or force field. Under the influence of this ripple, genes within the cells rapidly disintegrate and then chaotically dehydrate and die. However, the range of this force field's effect isn't large, and it consumes one's own vitality. It doesn't seem practical. This process directly contradicts the super strong healing and repair abilities of Child of Fate. In Suha's view, this ability is more for research. Perhaps it can be realized through runes without needing to consume life force. By that time, Decay would truly have realized its value. Suhao discovers that this ability is inherent to the Shell People sequence itself. The powerful healing and repair ability of the Shell People sequence, once it reaches the end of evolution, gains the opposite ability of Decay. Things in excess will reverse. Suhao exits the pinball space, looking at his incredibly strong power. Perhaps my body being too powerful might not be a good thing for me at the moment. I must keep up with my control over the body's abilities. After some time of adaptation and replenishing his energy, Suha directly transmits to Yashin, saying, Yashin, come to my lab. A moment later, Yashin arrives at Suha's lab and says, Boss Wei, I'm here. Suhao first asks, how are the people from the Four Kings gang? Yashin replies, no different, they're following others, learning the code of conduct for mutants. In just over 2 months, they bonded well with our Temple Forest Association, showing strong learning and adaptability. They are truly exceptional talents. Suhao continues, how is the adaptation of the Earth Lord going recently? Excitedly, Yashin says, incredible. My control has improved significantly. Combined with runes, I'm almost invincible. I even think I could compete with a 7th level mutant in arm wrestling. As for those evil children, I don't find them as terrifying as I used to. If they dare to come, I might be able to take them down. Suhao chuckles, 7th level mutants aren't as powerful as you imagine. But, as you said, it's a maybe you can defeat them. What if you can't? Do you plan to lead a group of people to their deaths? Yashin awkwardly laughs, Boss Wei is right. Then he adds, Boss Wei, we've received confirmed information. The massacres of mutants by evil children in the vicinity of Alien City are real. Mutants from nearby cities are either killed or have fled. So, we can't confirm evil children's exact location now, and we don't know which city he might appear in next. Running in our direction is also a possibility. Many mutants in the city have heard some rumors. Under a climate of fear, some have started leaving Temple Forest City, heading east. Suhao nods and advises, be cautious. If you sense anything amiss, flee immediately with your people. In his mind, Suhao silently adds, there's a high probability evil children will run in our direction and inexplicably find his way to me. Don't ask why, it's just a habit. But Suhao remains completely composed. Even he doesn't know his limits at the moment. Regardless of the children, once he discovers them, they will become subjects of his research. Yashin nods and, as if recalling something, adds, Boss Wei, recently, Tainy's mutant training has reached her body's limits. She keeps talking about evolving and has become less focused on her work. Would you consider letting her evolve? Suhao raises an eyebrow, understanding that Yashin wants his daughter to have more self-defense capabilities. He says, I almost forgot that the little girl hasn't evolved yet. Which sequence does she want to choose? Read the latest stories on novel.com. Yashin replies, she says she wants to become a Earth Lord. Suhao nods and says, there's nothing wrong with Earth Lord. Just go ahead and arrange it for her. But you need to think it through, evil children is targeting mutants, and having Tainy evolve at this time might not be a good thing. Yashin says, I understand, Boss Wei, but I can't talk Tainy out of her desire to fly. We'll make sure she stays away from evil children, and in the chaos that's likely to follow, it's better to give her some self-defense capabilities. Suhao agrees, as long as you've thought it through. By the way, Yashin, I recently went to Huxing City and found a 7th level mutant Child of Fate from the Shell People sequence. I brought back some flesh. If you're prepared, you can evolve into a Child of Fate anytime. Yashin's eyes widen, and he stammers, what? Boss Wei, I didn't catch that. Suhao adds, also, Temple Forest City is good, but it's a bit small. Coincidentally, several 7th level mutants from that side of Huxing City have all been killed. After you evolve into a 7th level mutant, you can move our Temple Forest Association over there. It's a better place for our association to grow. Yashin. He's taken quite a shock and needs time to digest this. Shortly after becoming a Earth Lord, Yashin swiftly evolved to the pinnacle of the Shell People sequence. Except for Suhao, it's unknown if anyone in history has evolved as quickly as Yashin, becoming a Child of Fate. At this moment, Yashin truly gained the qualification to change the world according to his own desires. As Suhao looked at the new Yashin, transformed in body and mind, he felt an indescribable sense of achievement. To personally transform someone and then use that person to change the world, it was an extraordinary feeling. After completing the evolution, Yashin felt the power to control his body effortlessly. He was excited yet overwhelmed with many surreal feelings. He asked, Boss Wei, am I a Child of Fate now? Can I continue to evolve further? Suhao earnestly nodded, saying, in theory, you can continue to evolve further, but no one knows what further evolution entails. If you're curious and want to try, I can help you explore it. I'm quite curious myself. Yashin immediately waved his hand and said, Boss Wei, I'm not curious for now. I'll stay as a Child of Fate for a while and adapt. Hee. Yashin slowly accepted the fact that he had successfully evolved into a Child of Fate but began to question his life. This world was not quite what he had imagined. How could becoming Boss Wei's dedicated chef lead to such a smooth evolution to the pinnacle of the mutants? What was the significance of other mutants risking their lives for a piece of meat? Cooking for Boss Wei seemed more practical. With these thoughts, Yashin suddenly gained insight into the rules governing this world. It didn't matter how talented you were, skill was just the foundation. Success came from using your skills in the right place to create value. Yashin realized this, looking at himself. He wasn't exceptionally talented, but he had good fortune in encountering Boss Wei and gaining his trust, a privilege few had. Even his own daughter, Tainy, didn't have that privilege. Yashin understood that he was Boss Wei's experimental subject, always at Boss Wei's beck and call. He was obedient and helpful, taking on tasks like a caretaker, ensuring Boss Wei's daily life went smoothly and saving him time. At that moment, Yashin understood. Grovel. If you couldn't do it yourself, grovel? Grovel to the fullest extent. Yashin then began to extrapolate this principle. How to raise a daughter. Keep her happy, and trivial matters become insignificant. How to manage the Temple Forest Association. Strong power is the foundation, then subtly grovel to the organization's members, making them comfortable. Open the way for them, and they would naturally strive to do their work. How to make mutants adhere to the mutant code of conduct. Still, grovel. Make them realize that obeying it is comfortable, and not obeying it is terrifying. Then they will naturally know what to do. Then the most important question arises, how to change the world. A glimmer of wisdom flashed in Yashin's eyes. By pleasing everyone and no longer thinking about consuming people for evolution, the world would change imperceptibly. Yashin decided to promote the ultimate skill he had learned from Boss Wei, grovel to the end, have it all, to illuminate the entire world. Yashin's eyes shone with radiance as he solemnly said to Su Hao, Boss Wei, my most respected person, I, Yashin, have decided to put our Temple Forest Association philosophy into practice, spreading the light of compassion to every corner of the world. Su Hao, watching the odd behavior of Yashin, suddenly interrupted, saying, Stop, stop, stop. Yashin, are you serious? The emotions that Yashin had been trying to muster were abruptly halted, and upon seeing Boss Wei's impatient expression, he instantly returned to a normal state. He awkwardly smiled and said, Boss Wei, I want to relocate Temple Forest Association to Huxing City, as you recommended, and gradually expand it from there. Su Hao casually responded, if you have an idea, go for it. Move as soon as possible. Yashin nodded and said, Boss Wei, after moving to Huxing City, I'd like to build a statue in the city center for you, called God of Boss Wei. What do you think? Su Hao kicked him and exclaimed, get lost. God of Boss Wei. That name sounds awful, not interested. Yashin's eyes lit up, Boss Wei hadn't explicitly rejected the idea. This was an opportunity. He continued, Boss Wei, will you move with us to Huxing City? Su Hao replied, no, I'll stay here for the time being. This JT novel been calm for new updates. Yashin was surprised and asked, then how will I cook for you? Su Hao casually replied, arrange 2 chefs to cook for me, and have the food delivered on time. Yashin shook his head and said, that won't work. Can you even eat the food they make? Don't worry, Boss Wei, in the future, I'll fly back from Huxing City at regular intervals to cook for you. Su Hao. Was there something wrong with Yashin's mind? Could it be that evolving into a child of fate too quickly had affected his temperament? After thoroughly researching the gene sequences of the child of fate and other level 7 mutants, Su Hao entered the pinball space to take stock of his current state and listed it on the log panel. Age, 17 years and 10 months. Physical condition, healthy, energy saturated. Blood energy, 800,000 plus. Race, Juhua people, child of fate. Combat skills, sliding shadow step, master, swordsmanship, proficient. Knowledge, program editing, master, blood energy control, proficient, life rune, skilled, genetic modification, novice. Mood, content. Achievements, extraordinary, flight. Current unfinished goals, 1. Master rune genetics, 2. Collect mutant genetics, 3. Explore the world. Su Hao placed obtaining knowledge of this world at the top of his priorities. After completing the corresponding learning, he still wanted to travel this world on his own, becoming an explorer who could go wherever his heart desired, experiencing exotic beauty in every corner of the world. He had been to many worlds, but most of the time, he hadn't had the chance to grow up before moving on, leaving him with a sense of regret. He had been to these places but never had the opportunity to truly explore and appreciate them, which always felt incomplete. However, everything was different in this world. Until now, he wanted to ask, who could possibly challenge him? The most powerful level 7 mutants in this world seemed to pose no threat to him in his current condition. Even Su Hao couldn't predict how he might meet his end. For Su Hao, once he sorted out the genetic projects, things wouldn't seem so urgent anymore. That would leave him with an abundance of time to pick up various subjects he had left unfinished and delve into them deeply. He could also explore different parts of the world, searching for unknown creatures and beasts, recording information about various forms of life. To Su Ha's knowledge, not only the Juhua people possessed extraordinary genetics. In remote and harsh environments, there might be strange, unknown creatures waiting for Su Ha's encounter. The thought filled him with anticipation. Su Hao sighed, continuously learning and expanding knowledge is the life a normal human like me should lead. I'm not a fan of the dull fighting and killing among the Juhua people. Su Hao walked out of the laboratory's doors with a determined stride, saying I'll start by taking down the evil children. Then I'll return to study and lead a normal life. Su Hao transformed into a child of fate with numerous runes inscribed on his crystalline golden armor. His wings spread out behind him, and with a burst of force beneath his feet, he soared into the sky, flying in the direction of Alien City. Regardless of whether Evil Child was still in Alien City, flying in the direction of Alien would provide him with the information he sought. Su Hao had 2 main reasons for being in such a hurry to take down Evil Child. The first reason was that the target of Evil Child was the massacre of mutants, and Su Hao was currently a mutant. As time passed, their paths were destined to cross. Su Hao was the type who preferred to resolve issues directly and didn't like to keep things hidden in his heart. If there was a problem, he liked to address it head-on. He felt uneasy until he resolved it. If they were destined to meet in the future, why not eliminate the troublesome potential risk in advance? By doing so, Su Hao could focus on his own affairs without constantly worrying about when the encounter would happen. If everything was put off until later, always waiting for the right moment and a foolproof plan, when an unknown risk emerged, he would be unable to accomplish anything. The second reason was that Evil Child seemed to possess a silent and deadly ability to kill mutants. After almost falling victim to the decay of a child of fate in Huxing City, Su Hao wasn't sure if Evil Child had a similar lethality. Therefore, Evil Child posed a significant threat to Su Hao. This threat wasn't about whether Su Hao could defeat Evil Child in combat, both had the ability to put the other in a dire situation. It was all about who could gain the upper hand. If Evil Child clandestinely infiltrated Temple Forest City and gained the upper hand, using his ability, Su Hao wasn't sure he could withstand it. From the current perspective, he couldn't, and there was a high probability that he would die directly. On the other hand, if Sue had discovered Evil Child in advance and took the initiative, his chances of winning would be virtually unlimited. He had many ways to eliminate Evil Child. In summary, Sue preferred to take the initiative, maintain control, and reduce known risks as much as possible. He knew that certain things couldn't be avoided, so it was better to confront them directly when the risks were manageable. This JT novel.com for new updates. On a winding forest path, a bearded man was hurriedly leading a delicate-faced woman. Big Brother Wu, slow down. I'm tired. Can we take a break? The woman seemed to be out of breath, gasping and acting spoiled. Big Brother Wu held the woman's hand and continued walking without stopping. He said, no. The woman grew frustrated, shook off Big Brother Wu's hand, and said, Big Brother Wu, I want to rest for a while. If you want to go ahead, go by yourself. Big Brother Wu ran a few steps and then stopped, gradually regulating his breath. He softened his expression and said, Xiao Dan, hold on a little longer. We're almost there. This time, we will definitely escape from that terrifying Evil Child. At the mention of Evil Child, Xiao Dan's face immediately paled, but she still hesitated. But we've run so far. We must have already escaped Evil Child, right? I just want to rest for a while. Big Brother Wu turned around and held Xiao Dan's hand, saying, Xiao Dan, let's be cautious. The first time we heard about Evil Child was in Alien City. When we arrived there, all the mutants in Alien City had been killed. So, we ran away in a hurry and arrived in Rushi City. There, we discovered that all the mutants in Rushi City were dead too, even though they were fine just 2 days earlier. Therefore, Evil Child must be close to us. I carefully inquired about the news from surrounding cities, and after confirming that Liu King is safe, we headed in that direction. However, we didn't expect that all the mutants in Liu King were dead as well. We've run to several cities, and without exception, all the mutants have been killed. If we weren't clear in our hearts, I'd even suspect that we're the rumored Evil Child ourselves. Big Brother Wu's eyes sparkled with wisdom. So, Xiao Dan, I suspect that this Evil Child is close to us. We need to escape quickly and get away from him. Otherwise, the next ones to die may very well be us. I don't want both of us to die at such a young age. There's a bright future waiting for us to enjoy. So, Xiao Dan, please listen to me. Xiao Dan's face was filled with admiration, and she said, Big Brother Wu, you're really amazing. Big Brother Wu chuckled and replied, just so-so. Xiao Dan speculated, Big Brother Wu, do you think Evil Child might be following us to scare us? Big Brother Wu gave her a reassuring look and said, don't worry. We're just 2 low-level tier 3 mutants. Someone of Evil Child's caliber wouldn't even spare us a second glance. Xiao Dan nodded and asked, Big Brother Wu, where are we going next? With confidence, Big Brother Wu said, next, I'm taking you to Linyuan City. I've already inquired, and Linyuan City recently went through a major battle, with more than half of it destroyed. Evil Child is unlikely to consider going to Linyuan City. Once we reach Linyuan City, we'll be safe. He then spoke gently, Xiao Dan, trust your Big Brother Wu. When we get there, we'll build a house, start a family, and have a baby. Blushing, Xiao Dan said, okay. Big Brother Wu held Xiao Dan's hand and started running. Let's go. Xiao Dan no longer resisted, and they disappeared into the depths of the path. Meanwhile, just as Suha left the laboratory, an unexpected guest entered Linyuan City. This uninvited guest was clad in a thick black leather coat and wore a mask and hood, concealing their face. Only a pair of sharp, cold, emotionless eyes were visible. They exuded an aura that made people instinctively avoid them as the residents of Linyuan City were busy constructing their new city. This person was none other than Evil Child. It had been a while since the incursion by the Earth Lord Donglan and the Mist Lord Baobi had led to the destruction of the city, and Linyuan City had begun to show signs of revival. However, it couldn't hide the fact that it had been a wasteland not too long ago. Evil Child stepped on the debris from the buildings that had not been cleared away, wandering aimlessly through the city, one step at a time, as if he had no specific destination. He didn't know why he had come to the city, as if he didn't know where he would go tomorrow. But for him, it didn't matter. Even if he didn't come now, there would come a day when he would arrive. He had already set his mind on leaving his mark in every city in the world, and then cleaning each city, ridding them of the vermin that brought only destruction and disaster. Despite being a mutant himself, he despised mutant beings, those who only brought calamity and destruction. A long time ago, all his loved ones had died, one by one, in just 5 years, due to mutant beings. He had even witnessed his closest kin fall in battle and be devoured, leaving nothing but a pile of bones. When he was the last person left in this world, he was profoundly lost, not knowing where to go or what his purpose was. For a long time, he believed that he was the superfluous one. Later, he gradually changed his perspective. He came to believe that it was the mutant beings who were the superfluous ones in this world. Evil Child Wu had once pondered a question seriously: what was the purpose of the existence of the mutants in this world? However, no matter how long he thought about it, he couldn't find an answer. Perhaps mutants were just the residual poison from the previous era. The theme of the previous era was to obtain powerful strength, protect the continuation of the race, and any sacrifice for this cause could be understood. But now, the Juhua people had already achieved ultimate victory, and the world was under the rule of the Juhua people. In other words, the Juhua people no longer needed the mutant group. The mutants, in the end, were just remnants transitioning from the old era to the new one, and they had lost their purpose. They would eventually fade away. Evil Child Wu traveled alone, going to many places, meeting many people, and pondering for a long time. It wasn't until he reached the age of 50 that he figured out many things. In reality, the world had always been changing, and the Juhua people had been progressing. Many novel things emerged from all over the world, allowing the Juhua people to live better lives. But the 8 evolutionary sequences of the mutants were still exactly the same as they were 1,000 years ago. Apart from killing and devouring, they had no other talents. In their legends of the prophetic people, it was foretold that someone would bring disasters and transformation to the world. As a prophetic person himself, he didn't initially understand what it meant. But when he finally comprehended these questions, he suddenly understood the wisdom of his forebears. He also realized that the world needed people to make such changes. Instead of waiting for the Juhua people to decline to the brink of extinction, why not embark on this grand transformation while the whole tribe hadn't reached its nadir yet? All latest novels on novelbin.com. Thus, Evil Child Wu decided to become the transformation figure prophesied in the past. He would exterminate all mutants, eliminate the remnants from the previous era, and clear away the lingering poison. Perhaps this was his purpose for existence. Originally, he hadn't made up his mind to do this. However, not long ago, he saw a novel item in Alien City. It was said to be a textile machine that could accelerate the production of fabrics, and it originated from a place called the Secluded Forest City. He studied it carefully for a while and was impressed by the intricate design and ingenious ideas within the machine. Evil Child Lu believed that this was the future of the Juhua people. A new era had already begun to take shape. But it was just such a miraculous device that was destroyed during a battle between mutants. Evil Child Lu suddenly woke up. Perhaps the new era had already arrived. It was the mutants who were obstructing the progress of this era. So Evil Child Lu made a determined decision. Starting from Alien City, he would bring disaster to the mutants and transformation to the Juhua people. This world didn't need mutants. Evil Child Lu thought about his own matters as he strolled through the broken streets of Linyuan City. His conviction grew stronger, and he silently contemplated, perhaps this is the mission of the residual poison person sequence. A tall and muscular man, shirtless, spent the entire morning clearing an area of building debris. His young son sat beside him, staring blankly as his father worked, occasionally helping with the cleanup of small stones and debris. This place used to be their home, but it was destroyed in the recent battles. He was just a modest second-level mutant, a tracker. He had no intention of evolving further, always careful not to reveal any clues about his abilities. All he wanted was to raise his son properly. During the initial outbreak of the great battle in Linyuan City, he sensed trouble and immediately fled the city with his son, narrowly escaping harm. Unfortunately, he got separated from his wife. Now, he had just returned to this place, planning to settle here. Maybe one day, his wife would find her way back to them. The man wiped his sweat with a handkerchief, took his son's hand, and said, "Come, my boy, I'll take you to eat some hot and fresh steamed buns. In a few more days, we'll have a house to live in." The boy immediately jumped up with excitement, exclaiming, "Steamed buns." An elderly couple sold out their vegetables, returned to their dilapidated home, and locked the door. After a short rest, the old lady asked softly, "Old man, do you think our youngest can come back?" The old man spat and said, "We're this old, what's the point of worrying about him? Life and death are fated, whether he comes back or not doesn't matter." The old lady sighed, let's just stay here. We might have to wait another 10 or so years." After a moment of silence, the old lady suddenly whispered, "Old man, I regret becoming a mutant." The old man immediately cut her off. "What nonsense are you talking about? Shut up." The old lady, now silent. 3 children, all around the age of 10, gathered together. One of them, a dark-skinned boy, looked at the boy with a scar on his forehead and said with envy, "Little, you've really become a mutant." The scarred boy nodded and said, "I don't know what happened. I just took a bite and unexpectedly turned into one." The dark-skinned boy said, "I envy you. I heard that it might kill you if you eat it. I wouldn't dare." Another little girl chimed in, "That's right, I wouldn't dare either. Little, you're really brave." Little chuckled foolishly and said, "It's just luck. But remember, you can't tell anyone about it." In Linyuan City, there were still many mutants living. They were all busy with their own affairs. Despite enduring hardships, they still had hope for the city. They believed that things would get better and that every surviving individual would eventually realize their dreams. Some mutants actively sought evolution in pursuit of power, making slaughter their way of life, believing they could climb to the pinnacle of this world. Others had attained evolution unintentionally and, driven by fear, wanted to hide, taking great care to keep their identity a secret. They had no intention of seeking further evolution. Then there were those who, while on the path of evolution, found it too dangerous and valued their lives above all else, desiring to return to an ordinary life. But regardless of their wishes, their thoughts, how much warmth they carried for the world, the moment they consumed the first bite of mutant flesh and evolved into mutants, their fates were sealed. Because a determined slaughterer, aspiring to kill all mutants, had arrived in their city. No one would be spared. The next day, as dawn broke, Slaughterer Lu walked out of Linyuan City at a slow pace. In the vast city of Linyuan, all the mutants had already died in their sleep, without suffering. The ones to discover the death of these mutants first were the individuals closest to them. No matter how heart-wrenching their cries, their loved ones and dependents would never wake up again. However, this world was this cruel. Regardless of who was missing, the sun continued to rise and set as if nothing had changed. At this very moment, Suhao arrived near Linyuan City. As he approached, he realized that there were no mutant life signs within the entire city, only ordinary humans remained. However, Suhao also had a discovery. Outside the city, there was a 7th-level mutant slowly moving away. Suhao revealed a faint smile, thinking to himself, how fortunate. It's Slaughterer Lu. Suhao has already noticed that all the mutants in the entire city of Linyuan have perished. Including the Origin King who had been active until recently, the eerie aura that was once pervasive throughout the city has completely disappeared. To easily kill Origin King, this Slaughterer Lu indeed has some skills. Suhao couldn't help but be amazed. He had already figured out Origin King's ability, which allowed him to completely separate his own cells, scatter them among various life forms, nourish himself with other life forms, and gradually grow stronger. At the same time, he could also remotely control the people he parasitized or directly devour them, turning them into his puppets. Of course, most of the parasitized people had no idea that they were under the control of Origin King until he unleashed his devouring. But by then, it was usually too late. It could be said that every parasitized person was a part of Origin King as long as all the bodies parasitized by Origin King weren't destroyed, Origin King would remain immortal. Even Suhao would find it difficult to eliminate all of Origin King's parasitic avatars without being noticed. After some thought, Suhao decided not to enter this dead city, which was a death trap for mutants. This city was unknown to him, and the unknown was the most frightening. Before he could figure out how the Slaughterer killed all the mutants, Suhao had no intention of entering the city or confronting the Slaughterer directly. First, use the transforming diamond armor to move the dead bodies out of the city and study them carefully. We need to determine how these mutants died. With that in mind, Suhao immediately controlled his blood and cells to go underground, activating the transforming diamond armor, which quickly extended into the city to search for the mutants' corpses. Suhao's radar couldn't detect objects without life signs, so he couldn't locate the mutants' bodies. But that didn't pose a problem for him. He used the principle of light reflection to create small mirrors along the way. The light reflected by these mirrors allowed him to easily see what was happening in specific locations in the city. These mirrors had limited use, but they were more than enough to find 1 or 2 bodies. Soon, Suhao found his targets. There was a person lying in bed, still in a deep sleep. If it weren't for the lack of breathing and the unusual purplish-black color of the face, one might think this person was simply asleep. Suddenly, the transforming diamond armor spread over and wrapped the body before sinking into the ground and disappearing, leaving the surface unchanged. Su Hao successfully pulled out 5 bodies and placed them in front of him, then curiously observed these 5 deceased individuals. There were no obvious signs of injury, no traces of struggle. It looked as if they had died in their sleep. Su Hao didn't act immediately but observed for a while. He noticed a rocky slope nearby, so he carried the 5 bodies and walked there slowly. Arriving in front of a stone wall, he placed his hand on it, activated the one room, one hall technique, and slowly entered, leaving only a small air vent to cover the entrance. F0LW new chapters at no/el/bin/com. Su Hao enjoyed doing research, and a laboratory was a must. It was a peaceful place where he didn't have to worry about being disturbed. As for the slaughterer Lu, Su Hao estimated that, based on his travel speed, it would take him at least half a day to exit Suha's radar detection range. There was no need to worry about losing him. Su Hao extended his hand, and 2 sharp crystal scalpels appeared in his hand. Let me see how you died. An hour later, Su Hao exited the pinball space and suddenly burst into laughter. He had figured out how the slaughterer Lu killed the mutants, and it was truly terrifying. If Su Hao had inadvertently fallen victim to it, he would have been a goner. Su Hao found that the 5 bodies he had dissected had perfectly intact organs and tissues. However, when he observed at the cellular level, he discovered that the DNA in their bodies had completely disintegrated into chaos, and all cells had lost their activity, without exception. In other words, even if someone consumed the flesh and blood of these mutants, they would not gain any evolutionary benefits. This was the destruction of mutant genes at the root. Amazing. This is a microscopic attack. Who can withstand it? Su Hao marveled. According to his speculation, the slaughterer Lu likely used a colorless and odorless special substance to shroud the entire city at night, silently killing all mutants. Su Hao temporarily referred to this substance as Gene Toxin 1, and the invasion process of Gene Toxin was silent. Even if some sensitive mutants detected it, by that time, it would already be too late. This Gene Toxin 1 was not simple. It could differentiate between regular people and mutants, bypassing regular individuals and specifically targeting mutants. That's why Gene Toxin 1 enveloped the entire city but spared regular people. It was as if Su Hao could precisely control Cas9 to cut specific genes, and the slaughterer Lu had a special method to pinpoint mutant genes and then selectively attack them. Perhaps slaughterer Lu himself didn't understand the principle, but he could use it effectively. However, Su Hao did not underestimate his opponent because of this. He heightened his vigilance. Because he had other considerations. In Su Hao's view, this slaughterer Lu was far from simple. His ability to accurately identify all mutants was undoubtedly related to his experiences. He likely had contact with mutants from every sequence, at every level, recorded their information, and developed Gene Toxin 1 to target all mutants. As Su Hao continued his analysis, he also thought about Gailey. To be precise, he thought about Gailey's identity as a prophet. Gailey had mentioned having 2 abilities, acquisition and analysis. However, through their later collaborative research, they discovered it wasn't limited to just those 2. It seemed to include acquisition, analysis, recording, and simulation. It was incredibly powerful. Most importantly, prophet and mutants from other sequences were not in conflict, which meant that the slaughterer Lu might not only be a part of the poison people sequence but could also be a prophet. Only fellow prophet individuals would have the capability to develop a toxin that could precisely poison its targets. In the face of his opponent, Su Hao was not reluctant to imagine the enemy as incredibly formidable to avoid any underestimation that could lead to disaster. Su Hao was confident that no matter how strong his opponent might be, he could emerge victorious. Especially now that Su Hao had discovered the methods that the slaughterer Lu used to kill mutants, and the slaughterer Lu remained unaware of Su Hao. Su Hao had the upper hand in this game. Su Hao walked out of the cave, waved his hand, burying the cave and the 5 bodies. Then he slowly made his way towards the slaughterer Lu. Now, the question was, given his knowledge of the slaughterer Lu's abilities, how could he eliminate his opponent? It had to be a one-shot kill. If Su Hao failed, he would inevitably be in danger, especially without knowing if the opponent had other tricks up their sleeve, and that danger could cost him his life. On the other side, the slaughterer Lu moved forward unhurriedly, his cold eyes occasionally showing a rare hint of anticipation. Each time he recalled the weaving machine he had seen in Alien City, he couldn't help but feel excited. He let out a sigh and muttered, Temple Forest City. Who could have created such a sophisticated device? I'm really looking forward to meeting the creator. As for the possibility that the creator of this weaving machine was a mutant, the slaughterer Lu had never considered it. When he thought of mutants, all he could think about was them being a source of food. That's right, he had a strong bias against mutants. And, for the most part, any mutants who had a problem with him were already dead. Slaughterer to enter the trap. He emerged from underground amidst the tall grass, and the ground returned to its original state. Now, we wait. In another 2 hours, slaughterer Lu will pass through here. With that thought in mind, Su Hao quickly withdrew to a safe distance. 2 hours later. As expected, slaughterer Lu arrived. Su Hao believes that many things in the world aren't inherently complex, it depends on how people approach them. It's like a tangled mess of lines blocking the way in front of you. Some people choose to untangle each line one by one, while others prefer to set the whole thing on fire. Su Hao is the kind of person who enjoys burning the chaotic tangle of lines to ashes all at once. Many things in the world are limited by human understanding and can't be explained clearly, no matter how you approach them. For example, regarding the actions of a person named slaughterer Lu, Su Hao can't evaluate what he's done. No matter whether Lu acted with good or ill intent, his actions are a mix of good and bad. He might also be the person the prophet referred to as someone who will bring change to the world. To this, Su Hao can only say, I'm sorry, but slaughterer Lu has things he wants to do, and Su Hao has his own goals. Initially, there was no deep conflict between them, but now Su Hao wants to kill slaughterer Lu because Lu has shown hostility toward the mutants, which is equivalent to showing hostility towards Su Hao. Su Hao is a mutant, this can't be denied. They are ultimately on opposite sides. So Su Hao doesn't want to think too much about these messy relationships, he chooses to kill his opponent in advance. Once he's out of the way, he'll have plenty of time to study the way of genes, which is incredibly deep and, for now, Su Hao only has a superficial understanding of it. He's far from being an expert. Su Hao takes a deep breath and patiently waits for slaughterer Lu to walk into the trap he set. As for whether slaughterer Lu might detect the impending danger and stop, Su Hao isn't very confident, but it's highly likely he won't detect it. Because he once conducted similar tests on Yashin and other Temple Forest Society members, apart from the Nightwalker sequence, mutants don't have a strong sense of others' life force. Not only do they lack a strong perception of others, but most mutants also have a very low perception of their own life force. Only advanced members of the Temple Force Society who have undergone martial training can accurately sense their life force, and even their perception of others' life force isn't strong. Slaughter Lu walks on the road to Temple Force City, his steps light, a feeling he has never experienced before. Perhaps this is the most solid proof I've found that the new era is coming. I'm not wrong, all mutants will be wiped out completely. This is the final result, and it won't change. The only difference is who will be the executioner. I don't mind being the one with blood on my hands. Moreover, isn't gaining the power of Slaughterer my destiny? Among so many mutant sequences, only Slaughterer can accomplish this great purification work. This is the choice of fate. And I will walk on this path of purification for my entire life, all the way to the end of my life. The more Slaughterer Lu thinks, the more excited he becomes, and his pace quickens, completely unaware that death is approaching. On the other side, Su Hao breathes a sigh of relief when he senses Slaughterer Lu entering the trap, but he doesn't hurry. When he steps directly above level 2000 explosions, that's when I'll detonate 30 bombs all at once. Time passes by, and Su Hao's radar operates at full capacity, precisely pinpointing Slaughterer Lu's location with the help of little light. It's now. Su Hao immediately activates the control bone cards in his hand, remotely triggering 30 level 2000 explosions bombs. These are the first 1000 level bombs that Su Hao has ever created, and there are 30 of them. No sound. But in the distance, a blinding white light ignites, like the sun crashing to the earth. The bombs have been successfully activated. Then, a violent tremor emanates from the ground under Su Hao's feet, growing more intense, making him somewhat unsteady on his feet. After a moment, a powerful shockwave sweeps through, and if Su Hao hadn't been prepared, he would have been knocked over. Along with the shockwave, some debris and stones are carried into the air. After a while, boom. The long-lasting rumble finally reaches this location, and Su Hao's ears are stinging, prompting him to instinctively cover them. Immediately following that is a continuous howling of fierce winds hitting his face. Follow the latest novels on no/Belbin.com. Wow. After Su Hao swears, he quickly transforms into a child of fate, using thick adamantine armor to cover his entire body for protection. How far is this place from the explosion site? Approximately around 4 kilometers, and even from this distance, the shockwave still possesses such incredible power. It's easy to imagine what Slaughterer Lu, at the center of the explosion, is experiencing with the devastating energy unleashed. Big Brother Wu, look, what's that? Xiao Dan grabs Big Brother Wu's hand, pointing at the dazzling light not far away. Big Brother Wu had already noticed the anomaly, the sudden eruption of a brilliant light in the distance, leaving his mind blank. What could this be? But before he could think further, the ground shook violently, throwing both of them to the ground. Before they could get up, a powerful force of impact struck them, throwing them backward, and they landed on the ground, tumbling. Spurt. Both of them simultaneously spew out blood, clearly having been injured by the violent shockwave. They were too close to the explosion site, within a range of about 2 kilometers, and if they had been any closer, it would have been much worse than just spitting blood. Boom. The deafening sound arrives, and both of them lose their hearing in an instant, blood flowing from their ears. Not only that, a large amount of debris, dirt, and all sorts of plant fragments begin to scatter in all directions, burying them within moments. At this moment, not far from the Lingyuan city, the residents of Lingyuan city all felt the intense tremors of the earth. They ran out of their houses onto the open streets, shouting loudly, "Earthquake, earthquake! Run out quickly!" By the time everything calmed down, the people still didn't understand what had happened. Amidst the chaotic debris, a hand suddenly emerges, pulling away the covering soil and stones. Phew, phew, phew. It's Big Brother Wu. Where's Xiao Dan? Xiao Dan. Big Brother Wu seems to recall something, hurriedly kneels on the ground and starts digging up the soil, and after a while, he unearths a person covered in mud. It's Xiao Dan. Xiao Dan regains consciousness, cleans herself up a bit, and suddenly bursts into tears. Big Brother Wu, feeling sorry for her, embraces Xiao Dan, patting her back and about to say, "Don't be afraid, I'm here. I'll protect you. Trust me." But as the words reach his lips, he swallows them back. Every time he says this, karma strikes extremely quickly, and he's not sure if he's been particularly unlucky lately, encountering such inexplicable events. It defies reason. But the good thing is that they're both still alive. Whether it's luck or misfortune, it's hard to tell. Xiao Dan suddenly breaks down, crying her heart out. "I've had enough, Big Brother Wu. I don't want to run with you anymore. Phew, phew, phew." Big Brother Wu regains some of his hearing, barely understanding what Xiao Dan is saying, and he holds Xiao Dan tightly, saying, "Xiao Dan, please listen to me one more time." Xiao Dan shakes her head. "I won't listen, I won't listen." As the dust settles, Su Hao leaps into the air, flying high and using the distant view runic symbols to closely observe the explosion site, searching for any traces of Slaughterer Lu. From high above, he sees a massive crater on the ground, with a diameter of over a kilometer. It looks like a meteor crater, with earth rolling outward and exposing the yellow soil. It's as if the earth has gained a giant yellow eye, gazing at the cosmos. After a while, Su Hao finds nothing, but he spots 2 innocent mutants who were affected not far from the blast site. Su Hao had noticed them earlier but had ignored them. Su Hao tries to sense Slaughterer Lu's life force using his radar but finds nothing. He mumbles, "He's probably dead, I guess. Just to be safe, I'll wait a bit longer." Although Su Hao is eager to find Slaughterer Lu's remains to record his genetic information, the situation is unclear, so he decides to wait for a while. Wasn't until dusk that Su Hao descended from mid-air and stood by the pit. He stomped his foot on the ground, looking at his handiwork, and couldn't help but exclaim, "This level of destruction caused by human strength is simply unbelievable." Next, Su Hao began carefully searching for the remnants of the evil child around. To his surprise, he found a piece of broken bone in a distant location, still with a trace of flesh attached to it. It wasn't enough to make the level 6 Chaos Lord evolve into an evil child, but for Su Hao it was sufficient. He only needed a fragment of the evil child's genetic code. Su Hao turned to look at the damaged land and surroundings, offering a brief apology. He leapt into the air again and headed towards the Temple Forest City. The matter of the evil child, the slaughterer, came to an end here. Su Hao could now return to his laboratory and continue his unfinished research on rune genetics. Su Hao's flight speed was swift, and in no time, he silently returned to his laboratory. He stored the genetic information of the evil child in his storage space, and after securing the flesh and blood of the evil child, he lay down to rest. Top novel updates on n/o/v/help/incom. Just as he closed his eyes, Suha suddenly got up and shouted, Yashin, prepare some food for me, the more, the better. The small round rats in the experimental base were instantly shocked, scurrying around in their cages. Yashin, who was half asleep, suddenly woke up and instinctively replied, of course, boss Wei. Just wait a moment, I'll prepare it right away. After a busy period, Suha ate to his heart's content and was about to go back to sleep. Yashin hesitated and said, boss Wei, this afternoon I heard a loud noise from a very distant place, accompanied by a severe earthquake. I just wanted to ask if it was. Yashin had seen Suha's bombs before, and after feeling the intense shaking and loud noise, his first reaction was that boss Wei was fighting with someone again. Indeed, this was Yashin's first reaction, different from others who thought it was an earthquake. He truly believed that such a commotion could only be caused by boss Wei. Suha casually replied, you mean that? Yes, I caused it. It did make quite a spectacle. Yashin swallowed his saliva and thought to himself, for boss Wei, it's indeed just a little spectacle, no doubt about that. Suha continued, I went on a trip these past few days and eliminated that evil child that was killing mutants everywhere. For the time being, we shouldn't have to worry about the evil child anymore. We're supposed to move to Huxing City, right? You should plan and prepare a strategy. Yashan's mouth gradually opened, and then he froze. The widely discussed and terrifying evil child had been taken down by boss Wei like that. Didn't boss Wei say he might not be a match for the evil child? When Yashin looked at boss Wei again, his eyes had completely changed. Boss Wei, someone as powerful as you is still so humble. It's worth learning from you. I, Yashin, should be even more humble than boss Wei. In the following time, Suha feasted on rich food at every meal, crazily transforming his vital energy, quickly replenishing the deficit. Suha, back at his peak condition, once again extended his hands towards the little round rats he had been keeping for some time. He entered a research state once more. Suha first called up the genetic fragment of evil child, the slaughterer. When he looked at it, he almost popped his eyes out. This genetic sequence of the evil child not only contained the genes of the poison people sequence but also genes from other mutant sequences. It could be described as a genetic encyclopedia, a treasure trove of genes. Upon closer examination, it's not comprehensive, with at least 4 advanced genetic segments missing. But it's terrifying enough. What kind of being did I kill? A god, as the legends say. Probably not, but it might pass as a demigod. The value of this genetic sequence of the evil child to Suha was unimaginable. It provided a new direction for Suha's advancement. After studying it for a while, Suha set aside the matter of the evil child because there were more important things to do. Next, there's no one who can stop me from researching runes. This time, I'll express runes completely within the bodies of the little round rats. Suha tightened his fist slowly and whispered, to create a new, extraordinary race with my own hands. 2 months later, Suha turned 18. In the midst of his experiments, Suha was in an exceptionally cheerful mood. He couldn't help but say, ding, new achievement unlocked, adulthood. He couldn't help but laugh at his own words and muttered, it's coming soon, the new extraordinary race. Another half a year later, Suha finally obtained his first extraordinary little round rat, the luminous little round rat. This luminous little round rat would sporadically emit a dazzling light, like the bathroom light when Sadako from the ring enters it, flashing on and off mysteriously. This luminous little round rat was terrified by the light it emitted, running around the room in the hope of getting rid of the inexplicable light. The more it ran, the faster the light on its body flashed. In Suha's eyes, this little round rat would be considered a special monster in the previous world. It might not have much attack power, but at least it had some unique abilities. The current issue is that a little round rat without intelligence can't control the runes inside its body. However, this point wasn't important to Suha. His goal had always been intelligent beings, not other non-thinking creatures. As long as the runes were recorded in their genes, the task was already successful. For the luminous little round rat to successfully emit light, the conditions were quite stringent, not as simple as imagined. It wasn't just about recording complete runes. Suha spent a lot of time on that. Successful engraving of the runes wasn't enough. The little round rat needed to have sufficient surplus vital energy to support the operation of the runes. And for this, Suha had to continuously attempt to implant the blood chi enhancement gene fragments, sacrificing many valiant little round rats. Suha captured the luminous little round rat and placed it back into a cage, then absentmindedly reached for another little round rat for experimentation. It was then that he realized the lab's reserve of rats had run low. Suha had no choice but to push open the lab's door, instinctively about to call for Yashan's help in capturing some little round rats. It suddenly dawned on him that Yashan had left with a large group of Temple Forest Association elites to the eastern city of Huxing 2 months ago. At present, in the Temple Forest city, he was only familiar with these little round rats. Suha waved his hand, and numerous little round rats from the breeding room automatically moved into his lab. Then, he smiled nonchalantly and said, I've always been alone. I'm used to it. Haha, let's continue with the research on rune genetics. That's where the real fun is. Having spoken quietly, Suha was about to turn back to enter the lab when a familiar presence entered his radar. Yashin, how did he return? What Suha's radar detected was indeed Yashin, who was currently flying back to the Temple Forest City at an extremely high speed. It's worth noting that the distance from the Temple Forest City to Huxing City was not short. Even if Yashin could fly at supersonic speeds, it would still take 5 to 6 hours. Yashan's return at this moment meant that there was something very important to discuss with him. After some thought, Suha decided not to return to the lab but instead waited in the courtyard for Yashin to arrive. Soon enough, he saw the figure of Yashin flying. Wearing a sleek suit of golden armor, wings extended, he looked incredibly handsome. With a thunderous rumble, Yashin successfully landed on the ground. He had been flying for a while, and as he stood there, he was a bit unsteady on his feet. Suha chuckled, oh Yashin, how come you're back? Seems like your landing technique still needs some improvement. Yashin, somewhat embarrassed, said, you're absolutely right, boss Wei. After flying for so long, I've forgotten what it feels like to stand on solid ground. By the way, the feeling of flying is so amazing, ha ha ha. Suha asked, why did you come back? Is there something important? Yashin immediately looked serious and said, of course, I learned a couple of new dishes over in Huxing, and I came back specifically to let boss Wei try them. Suha, with a quizzical expression, didn't react much. Yashin continued, these days, I guess boss Wei hasn't been enjoying the meals, and I haven't been able to sleep well either. So, I decided to return. After speaking, Yashin stored his golden armor, and then skillfully entered the kitchen, saying, there are plenty of ingredients here. Boss Wei, please wait a moment, and I'll have something ready in no time. Su Hao simply created a recliner with his golden armor, lay down in the courtyard, and watched Yashin busily working in the kitchen. His mood was somewhat complex, and in the end, he sighed quietly, Yashin, you've really been a worthwhile investment. Su Hao enjoyed a satisfying meal, relishing a long-lost sense of physical satisfaction. This time, he was becoming increasingly content with Yashin. If it were possible, Su Hao would want Yashin to stay with him all the time. However, how could he achieve that? When he dies in this world, he will inevitably continue wandering endlessly in the universe, and Yashin will eventually disappear with the passage of time. Thinking about this, Su Hao felt a strange sense of loneliness. The path of pursuing knowledge is inherently lonely. The joy of gaining knowledge has no one to share it with, and the sorrow of facing setbacks has no one to confide in. Although Su Hao didn't mind this, he still felt a sense of regret. Wouldn't it be better if there were some trustworthy people to accompany him on this journey? People like his father, Wu Yunshin, from his previous life, or his subordinate Yashin, who worked tirelessly for him in this life. As he thought about it, Su Hao fell into deep contemplation. Perhaps it's feasible. He then shook his head with a smile. He was far from achieving this because his understanding of the pinball space was still too shallow. All these years, he had been focusing on surviving as much as possible after reincarnation, constantly striving to acquire various knowledge and power, while neglecting the fundamental reason for his existence, the pinball space. The knowledge documents from when he was Jiao Hui still lay quietly in a corner of the pinball space, and he couldn't remember how many years it had been since he last opened one to study. These years were spent in solitary research and exploration, almost forgetting the joy of learning and problem solving. It was a time of carefree simplicity. Unfortunately, he had to first obtain enough power to protect himself and gain more time. For example, without having mastered enough strength, he would have already been killed by Evil Child, and after dying and being reincarnated, he would have to start over, with no spare time for learning. Killing Evil Child would provide him with ample time to study, or to earnestly explore other undeveloped functions of the pinball space. Su Hao was confident that he would make progress. Su Hao lay on the recliner, organizing his thoughts about the future, while Yashin imitated him, forming a recliner and gazing at the sky. After some time, Su Hao sighed and turned to Yashin, asking, Yashin, can you really trust the situation with Huxine when you return like this? Yashin nodded earnestly and said, of course, I haven't been in charge of things for these years. It's all been handled by Taimi. The Soul Eater Norin and the Heavenly Lord Meng Chuan have been coordinating everything efficiently. I'm not afraid of you making fun of me, but I've realized over these years that I don't have much talent for management. I'm still the same old me, haha. Su Hao nodded with a smile and said, being able to recognize your strengths and weaknesses, Yashin, you've surpassed many people. Yashin also smiled and said, that's right. My role now is more about giving the Temple Forest Society a name, a belief. As for the matters, they handle everything properly. Su Hao said, not bad, Yashin, you've truly grasped the essence of management. It's not as simple as you claim. Read new chapters on no/v/e/elvin.com. Yashin said, to be honest, I just thought that whoever obeys me, I'll take good care of them, and whoever disobeys, I'll beat them into submission and then take good care of them. Haha, I didn't expect it to be somewhat useful. Su Hao also laughed and said, that's right, simplicity is the ultimate sophistication. Yashin said, before Taimi evolved into a mutant, I was a bit hesitant about handing everything over to her. I used to follow her closely. Now that I've helped her evolve to the Earth Lord and taught her how to fly, I feel much more at ease. Su Hao said, that little girl Taimi, is she perhaps the youngest Earth Lord? Yashin scratched his head apologetically and said, Boss Wei, after some time, I want to help Taimi advance to the life bearer level. Once she has enough self-defense capabilities, she can come back to Temple Forest City and assist you with some trivial matters. I'm not interested in all those miscellaneous matters of the Temple Forest Society. I prefer to stay by Boss Wei's side. If possible, I don't even want to go back to Huxine City. Su Hao glanced at Yashin and replied, Yashin, your decision is fine. The most liberating aspect of being human is the ability to choose what you like. As long as you can bear the consequences, everything is okay. Yashin, excited to gain his approval, said in the future, I'll return to Huxine City twice a month to inspect and ensure that the Temple Forest Society stays on the right track. The rest of the time, I'll stay in Temple Forest City. Su Hao inquired, by the way, what's the current situation over there? Yashin laughed heartily when he mentioned it. Over in Huxine City, their Four Kings gang has now become our Temple Forest Society's public safety team. Furthermore, they've declared their complete integration into the Temple Forest Society and have become staunch supporters. They haven't mentioned returning to Linyuan City anymore. Su Hao cautioned, Yashin, don't be deceived by appearances. Gailey is a prophet. He's very intelligent and has his own set of principles and methods for handling things. He's also a very proud person. People like him won't be swayed by shallow theories. Even if he's temporarily swayed, he'll quickly figure out the principles. Right now, he supports the Temple Forest Society because he's limited by his own understanding and believes that it's his best choice. But that might change in the future. If he thinks he has a better way, he'll undoubtedly abandon the Temple Forest Society and maybe even replace it. Do you understand what I'm saying, Yashin? Yashin was taken aback and asked, Boss Wei, what should I do then? Su Hao smiled and said, haven't you already found a way? Maintain an absolute strength advantage. If they don't obey, keep beating them until they do, or simply eliminate them. Yashin's eyes lit up and he nodded, saying, I understand, Boss Wei. Su Hao continued, the current Temple Forest Society and the current social structure have not reached a point where dissenting issues can be handled with gentle methods. Yashin, you must remember that you are the faith of the Temple Forest Society. You can't go wrong. If you make a mistake, the entire Temple Forest Society will be in the wrong. So, as long as you have a goal, charge forward with everything you have and break through any obstacles with a knife in your hand. Until you reach the finish line, you will never know if you are right or wrong. Just like someone telling you that the food isn't good, but you won't truly know until you taste it. What's the harm in making mistakes? You can always correct them. After a pause, Su Hao added, and all of this is based on the premise that you must have absolute, overwhelming strength. With these words, Yashin's mind was once again deeply influenced. This was a result of his trust in Boss Wei. Yashin said solemnly, Boss Wei, I understand. You can rest assured that the Temple Forest Society won't go astray. Even if it does, I can bring it back piece by piece. Then Yashin continued, Boss Wei, I've already built a temple in the central square of Huxine City, and I've engraved an idol of you above the temple. Through a unanimous decision in the Temple Forest Society, it's named the Genesis God. Su Hao cough cough. Su Hao had once spoken to Yashin about the power of faith in uniting people. He described to him the strength and operational model of a religious belief, even laying out its structure to help Yashin understand what it meant to touch hearts and have faith. The term creating a new century was also introduced by Su Hao to Yashin. To his surprise, Yashin managed to create something out of nothing, giving birth to the god of Genesis Wei. Su Hao was at a loss for words. The project was nearing completion, and there was no time to say anything more. When Su Hao asked Yashin why he had created a god, Yashin responded with amazement. Boss Wei, I mentioned this to you before, and you didn't oppose it, right? Su Hao silently retorted in his mind, didn't oppose it. Even if I didn't oppose it, I didn't agree either. However, this issue was already too complicated. Su Hao decided to skip it. If this deity's name could bring him convenience, he didn't mind using it. After all, his fundamental goal was to acquire endless knowledge. Su Hao asked, so when do you plan to return to Huxing City? Yashin smiled, no rush. I need to stay here for a week or so. Su Hao replied, alright, take your time these days. Take the opportunity to contemplate your combat abilities. I'll return to the lab and continue with my experiments. Su Hao returned to the laboratory and entered the pinball space to ponder his upcoming tasks. He opened the log list, glanced at it, and marked completed small round mouse experiment under the unfinished tasks option. He then began to list his objectives. 1. Establish a human gene coordinate system and complete the expression of runic genes in the human body. 2. Collect full sequences of different grade mutant genes. 3. Join the scientific exploration program and pick up abandoned knowledge. 4. Delve deeper into the nature of the pinball space. Note known properties. 1. Free roaming in the universe. 2. Recording information. 3. Having positive and negative properties, which can be calculated. 5. Attempt to evolve the legendary creature, the god. These 5 objectives, arranged in order, would be completed one by one. Su Hao was confident he could accomplish the first one within 2 years, and he could delegate the second task to Yashin. The third and fourth objectives could be pursued simultaneously, and the fifth could wait until everything else was done. After organizing his thoughts, Su Hao exited the pinball space, and once again, he picked up an innocent small round mouse, muttering to himself, so, let's continue improving the runic gene expression of the small round mouse. After the experiment is completely successful, we'll begin human experiments. Over the years, Yashin has accumulated quite a number of heinous criminals, haven't they? These people, after their public trials in the Temple Forest Society, should have been executed, but Su Hao instructed Yashin to keep them for the time being. Over the years, this has accumulated a significant number of them, enough for Su Hao's experiments. After the experiments, they could be returned for execution, but Su Hao was confident that his experiments were stable and death was unlikely. Time passed quickly and 2 years went by. This year, Su Hao turned 21. He had once again grown into a tall and imposing man, standing at a towering height of 2.3 meters, surpassing the average height of Juhua people. This transformation marked a significant change, allowing him to view the world from a perspective higher than most. The mature, heroic face, even among the already good-looking people of Juhua, was something rarely seen. Su Hao reduced his outings because when girls saw him, they would flock around him. After gathering a large group of girls, they became bolder and began to flirt with him. Su Hao, the god of Genesis, found it a bit hard to handle, reminiscent of Leonardo DiCaprio's encounters in his youth. Reflecting on this, Su Hao shook his head and sighed. This is the charm brought by immense power, an irresistible charm. The impact of his powerful physique and presence was evident in Su Hao. However, looks were superficial, and what he truly valued was his research achievements. At this point, he had finally completed his first mission goal. Entering the pinball space, he marked a check on the item, establish a human gene coordinate system, and complete the expression of runic genes in the human body. Su Hao, who had absolute confidence in this gene technology, immediately thought of Yashin. He called Yashin into the lab and said, Yashin, I'm going to upgrade your path as a martial artist, construct a new circulatory system, and help you transform from an elite-level martial artist to a master-level martial artist for a qualitative change. Yashin was astonished. Master-level martial artist. I thought being an elite-level martial artist was the limit. Su Hao smiled. Being an elite-level martial artist is certainly not the limit. There was once a genius figure named Wu Zongzu who explored this path. Yashin looked full of admiration and said, Wu Zongzu is indeed a genius, but compared to Boss Wei, he falls far short. Su Hao chuckled and shook his head. It's not like that. Wu Zongzu is much more formidable than me. Besides, there's no real comparison. I'm different from him. I'm not a genius. I'm just hardworking. He added silently, and I have more opportunities. Other than that, I'm not much stronger than others. If someone else had my experiences, they might do even better. Yashin asked, can martial artists directly level up? Su Hao replied, in the past, it wasn't possible. You had to rely on a lot of time to memorize and experiment with adjustments. I don't think your brain is suited for that, so I won't let you learn. However, now you can level up directly. Just lie down quietly for a while, and you'll be able to advance to a master-level martial artist. Yashin. At this moment, Yashin didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Was his brain really that bad? Yashin asked, Boss Wei, what should I do now? Su Hao gestured, just lie still and don't move. Promotion won't happen today. It'll take a few more days. I need to collect data first. Su Hao added, Yashin, I'm going to inscribe a runic pattern into your body as your innate ability. You can choose one yourself. Yashin widened his eyes, looking very surprised. He really wanted to know what runic pattern Su Hao had in mind and wanted it for himself, but he restrained himself from asking. He thought to himself, how can I ask Boss Wei such a personal question? After thinking for a while, Yashin said, Boss Wei, can I choose lightning? Su Hao furrowed his brow and said, the lightning runic pattern is quite special. It's fine to inscribe it on armor, but it's not easy to guide and control when inscribed inside the body. It's easy to harm oneself, so I don't recommend choosing it. After I optimize it in the future, I'll change it for you. The lightning runic pattern wasn't obtained from the bodies of ferocious beasts. Su Hao had designed it based on basic runic patterns himself. Practical small skills like fire ring, fire dragon, earth thorns, strong winds, rift were all created by Su Hao himself. Inscribing such runic patterns inside the body could easily lead to self-harm. However, this runic pattern could be optimized in the future. Top novel updates on n/o/v/help/incom. While Yashin felt a bit disappointed at first, he immediately became indifferent upon hearing that the runic pattern could be changed later. After thinking for a moment, he settled on a runic pattern, saying, let's go with rotation. This runic pattern feels handy and has tremendous power. Su Hao nodded, lie down, and I'll collect some data. Relax your whole body and don't resist. With that, Su Hao filled Yashin's chest with a large amount of vital energy and began constructing the rotation runic array inside Yashin's body, continuously adjusting the 8 control rods. After half an hour, Su Hao finally confirmed the position of the runic pattern inside Yashin's body and withdrew his vital energy, saying, alright, Yashin, wait for 5 days. I'll come to find you then, and you'll be able to advance to a master-level martial artist. Yashin was incredibly curious. Boss Wei, how do you do it? It's so amazing, especially those peculiar small round mice outside. They're simply unbelievable. Su Hao replied nonchalantly, even if I tell you, you wouldn't understand. Yashin thought, well, at least give it a try. What if I do understand? Norn hadn't fully grasped the seriousness of the situation yet but nodded and said, of course, boss Yashin. Top novel updates on n/o/v/help/incom. After that, Yashin left and returned home to wait. Soon, there was a knock on the door and a crisp voice said, Boss Yashin, you're back. You wanted to see me? It was none other than Shadow King Nan. After returning to Huxing City from Yashin, Suha once again returned to his laboratory. Since he instructed Yashin to handle things, Suha felt quite relieved. How long it would take to yield results depended on Yashin's abilities. Looking at Yashin's vacant expression, it seemed quite a challenge to handle a woman. Whether it would take as short as 3 years or as long as 5, only then would it be known whether the rune gene could be completely passed on to the next generation. What is bloodline? This is bloodline. Suha could manually create extraordinary bloodlines, which was quite impressive. First, Suha indulged in self-satisfaction, then delved back into his research. Through Yashin fathering a child, Suha had new ideas. Perhaps Juhua people want to evolve without the need for internal cannibalism among Juhua people. What does that mean? The principle imagined by Suha was very simple. Since Juhua people could obtain fragments of extraordinary genes from wild beast mutants, they should obtain them from the wild. As long as Yashin could establish a vast empire, ruling the entire continent, then divide the territory into 8 major regions, and within these 8 regions, select suitable organisms, artificially breed beast mutants. These areas would be named things like the Great Strength People Mutant Zone, Speed People Mutant Zone, Silk Spitting People Mutant Zone, and so on. Then establish a Mutant Institute. To evolve into a mutant, there wouldn't be a need for fighting, only entry into the Mutant Institute system for learning, and after earning a certain amount of points, exchange them for a chance to enter the Mutant Beast Zone for hunting the evolving flesh. If failed, there would be another chance after a year. Official mutant competitions of all levels would be held annually, opening pathways for advancement and honor to vent the mutants' exceptionally strong desire for battle. One could even artificially construct a super mutant beast zone, cultivating a large number of dangerous beast mutants. Each year, a limited number would be allowed to enter for exploration, regardless of life or death. More details would need gradual implementation. This would create a relatively stable social structure, preventing the complete extinction of all mutants, unlike what the slaughterer achieved through extreme means. Such miraculous genes were indeed very precious, and Suha was still very reluctant to see them disappear like this. Perhaps, in the distant future, this world would have new evolving genes again, and after acquiring enough knowledge, he might return to this world. No one can predict the future. This approach is worth a try. So first, I need to select suitable gene carriers. I think the little round mice are quite good, so let's start with you. Suha once again focused on the little round mice. The little round mice had brought Suha a lot of help and had sacrificed a lot for this. Suha decided to bestow upon them a great opportunity. Squeak, squeak, squeak. The little round mice were very alarmed. If they knew what Suha was thinking, they might or might not refuse Suha's good intentions. Huxing City, Yashin's room. Yashin, expressionless, stood up and opened the door, seeing Nana, the Shadow King, standing outside with a puzzled expression. Nana had a soft and beautiful face, big, twinkling eyes full of allure, a well-proportioned figure, and slightly dusky skin that made her look vibrant. The white fur on her ear tips trembled slightly in the gentle breeze. Nana looked at Yashin with confusion and asked, Yashin, did you call for me? Yashin grabbed Nana's hand and pulled her into the room, closing the door with a loud bang. Nana was startled. Yashin then pushed Nana against the wall, getting closer to her face. Nana, flustered, blushed but made no resistance. Yashin said slowly, Nana, I have a task for you. Nana, feeling shy, nodded, unable to meet Yashin's gaze, softly saying. Yashin continued, the task is to have a child with me. Nana's heart trembled. She lowered her eyelids, unable to look at Yashin, just nodded softly, yes. Suha miscalculated. He thought Yashin would have to put in some effort to convince a girl to have a child for him. He didn't expect that merely assigning a task would lead to success. Your favorite novels at n/ovl/vincom. What was this? This was known as the top-down assignment of tasks, cooperation, and mutual benefits. Unaware that Yashin, already living a new life, Suha was engrossed in the research of the little round mice. He discovered that the most suitable sequence for the little round mice was the Nightwalker sequence, potentially evolving into a 4th-tier night demon. Perhaps the potential of creatures like the little round mice had reached its limit. The success rate of further promotion was close to 0. In Suha's hands, despite injecting a level 5 Heavenly King gene modification fluid, without exception, all of them died. Even the implantation of the blood enhancement gene was futile. Regarding this, Suha could only say it was beyond his control. A great opportunity presented itself, but the potential of creatures like the little round mice was indeed limited. So, Suha turned his attention to another common creature around the Temple Forest City, the ground pangolin-like creature called the Earth Armadillo. The Earth Armadillo is a natural carrier of the Shell People sequence gene, advancing effortlessly up to the 6th level Earth Lord. However, during the promotion to the 7th level Life Bearer, the Earth Armadillo began experiencing massive gene collapses and subsequent death. This indicates that while this creature exhibits extremely strong compatibility with the Shell People sequence gene, it still has its own limitations and cannot support the immense power of the Life Bearer. After a thorough analysis, Suha discovered a crucial aspect, the size of the organism. The larger the volume, the greater the potential for carrying energy within itself, and the farther it can progress along the path of evolution. For this reason, Suha deliberately captured several exploding bears and guided them towards evolving into the Great Strength People sequence. The result. They smoothly evolved all the way to the 7th level vessel, without any issues. He also chose a few Black Mountain feral boars and guided them towards the Shell People sequence. They also smoothly evolved to the 7th level Life Bearer without any problems. In summary, each species has its own adapted sequence and its inherent limitations. Suha's eyes lit up, so it means that different species can carry genes of the same sequence but at different levels. This could form an alternative ecosystem within the same mutant beast zone without the need for specific nurturing. However, Suha pondered another issue. In that case, the required area for the mutant beast zones would become immensely large, making it impossible to enclose. How can we restrict the movement of the beast mutants within the designated area without them venturing beyond the boundaries of the designated mutant beast zone? With ideas emerging, it's normal for problems to surface one after another while implementing them. The key is to solve these issues step by step. The initial goal is to get this task done and address the existence-related problems. Once achieved, the focus can shift to determining what works and what doesn't. If perfection is pursued from the start, it might seem foolproof but would be incredibly difficult in reality because the world is dynamic, and people are dynamic too. Su Hao has always understood this principle. As Su Hao tinkered with various creatures, he contemplated the issue of restricting the range of activity for the beast mutants. While thinking, he suddenly had an idea. I've got it. Really, there is. Not only does Su Hao have ideas, but Yashin also has a new child. In just 3 months, Yashin excitedly ran to Temple Forest City and found his boss. Boss Wei, my new wives are pregnant. Su Hao wives. Su Hao originally thought that Yashin, at most, could find one woman willing to have his child, thinking that was impressive. He didn't expect to underestimate him. Su Hao said calmly, tell me, how many? Yashin scratched his head and said, not many, just 3, and all 3 are pregnant. Su Hao extended a thumb. Yashin, I can't believe how capable you are. Yashin, feeling somewhat proud of Su Hao's praise, said, I thought I must complete Boss Wee's task, you see? I was afraid that one wouldn't get pregnant, so I found 2 more, just to be safe, and unexpectedly, they all got pregnant. It's a happy event. However. Su Hao saw him hesitate and asked directly, however what? Yashin hesitated. However, when Taney saw that I found so many mothers for her all at once, she couldn't accept it and got angry with me. Su Hao thought to himself, not only can your daughter not accept it, even I, as the leader, am having a hard time accepting it. But since things had come to this, saying more was pointless. As long as the verification could be completed, with Yashin having a few more children, more information could be obtained. Generally speaking, it's a good thing. Su Hao said, once your 3 children are born, Taney will accept it, don't worry. I'm a bit hungry, Yashin, hurry up and make something to eat. At this, Yashin became energized and immediately jumped up, alright, Boss Wei, please wait a moment, it'll be ready soon. Su Hao had gotten used to Yashin's cooking. Meals made by others, when he thought about it, really couldn't satisfy him properly. Although he wasn't picky about other foods, he didn't have the pleasure of enjoying good food, it was just about filling his stomach. But Yashin's culinary skills, honed to his taste, were different, they gave him the pleasure of eating and drinking. Once full, Su Hao began discussing his ideas with Yashin. First, let's create a mold, encircle the land, introduce some beasts carrying the blood and flesh of mutants to reproduce. When the time is right, we can begin household registration, forcing mutants to study for 3 years, forcibly changing their ideologies from previous ones. If they can't change, it's fine, label them and let them be. Then start implementing the model of mutant academies, opening 8 major mutant areas. After obtaining enough points, they can enter these areas to hunt and obtain corresponding blood and flesh for evolution. This process might be lengthy, but as long as we persist for 50 years, continuously improving and patching up over those 50 years, after 50 years, a new generation of Juhua people will rise, and the older generation will no longer dominate society. At that point, the entire world will change, and the world you see will no longer be the same as it is now. In summary, the whole society of Juhua people will be more stable, more hierarchical, more creative, and more rule-based. Everyone will act under new rules, even if there are individual extremists aiming to destroy the world, we can respond quickly. In reality, mutant academies also serve as a screening for qualified mutant functions. For those who are too extreme and radical, we directly limit their evolutionary path, guiding them toward sequences that cause less harm. Yashin took notes quickly. He seemed to understand and yet not understand. Most of it, he didn't understand, but the key point that he did grasp was that the new society would be more stable, more hierarchical, more creative, more rule-based. Filled with anticipation, Yashin believed that as long as he followed Boss Wee's lead, in 50 years, they would inevitably achieve this. Su Hao didn't expect Yashin to understand it all at once. He conveyed the idea to implant a concept in Yashin's mind, and that was enough. Su Hao continued, of course, this matter requires the collective power of the entire world. Relying solely on the Temple Forest Society won't achieve this. So, for these 2 years, focus on strengthening the Temple Forest Society's power, collect information from the remaining 6 major cities, and then propose an alliance with them. Communicate well, send some articulate people to negotiate. If it's feasible and beneficial for everyone, great. If not, eliminate those who disagree and then send others to negotiate again. All our latest novels on novelbin.com. No rush with these tasks. Step by step, we expect to complete everything within 5 years. Do you understand, Yashin? Yashin, spirited, said, though not entirely clear, I know the general idea. Strengthen ourselves first, negotiate, and if it fails, eliminate and find someone else to negotiate. Su Hao nodded, correct. As for the plan, I'll sketch something out for you to refine with your people. Yashin nodded firmly. All right, Boss Wei. He regained his enthusiasm for action. Regarding how Su Hao would control the mutants from leaving the mutant zone, he had no initial plan. But thinking of the slaughterer who died 3 years ago gave him a new inspiration. The slaughterer developed a gene toxin 1 that could precisely attack mutant genes. Could a similar gene toxin be created? Utilizing this gene toxin and placing numerous barriers around the mutant zone, any mutant trying to leave would be attacked and killed. Eventually, this area would become a forbidden zone for mutants, and removing the gene toxin afterward wouldn't matter. With continuous contemplation, Su's plan became clearer. Moreover, this gene toxin isn't difficult to manufacture. You just need to find suitable tall plants, design their gene sequence to allow them to synthesize and release a special gaseous gene toxin whenever necessary. Then, surround the designated mutant zone with these plants to create a natural barrier. Furthermore, this toxin must possess tremendous penetration capabilities that not even the armor of the shell people can block. To prevent mutants from leaving via the air, the gene toxin must be lighter than air and continuously rise. Also, below the ground, the roots should secrete the gene toxin, so during heavy rain, the toxin seeps underground. The mutants living in the mutant zone would experience being trapped with no way in or out. The more Su Hao thought, the more feasible it seemed. A year ago, he had already thoroughly understood the slaughterer's attack method. In essence, it involved gathering gene fragments from various sequences of mutants, then the body secreting nanobots specifically targeting those gene fragments. Once these nanobots were dispersed, covering an entire city, within a few hours, they could shred the gene fragments of mutants, self-transcribe, and ultimately destroy the cells, causing mutant death. Su Hao could create these nanobots and even mass-produce them. The production process was straightforward. Select suitable organisms and modify their genes based on the slaughterer's methods. With a plan in mind, everything became more manageable. Su Hao immediately took action, first instructing Yashin to gather tall trees emitting unique scents and bring them to Temple Forest City. Next, he entered the virtual space to design the supporting gene toxin 2 to attack specific gene sequences. Su Hao couldn't directly utilize the slaughterer's gene toxin 1 as it not only harmed mutants but also indiscriminately attacked any humans within its range, potentially becoming a weapon in the wrong hands. Therefore, Suha's gene toxin 2 wasn't aimed at attacking mutant gene fragments. His concept was straightforward: implant a special DNA segment into the bodies of all mutants released in the mutant zone, one that could be inherited across generations but wouldn't transcribe. Then, design the corresponding gene toxin 2 specifically to attack this implanted gene fragment, resulting in lethal effects. Su Hao praised himself, genius-level idea and execution. Regarding the work on gene toxin 2, for Su Hao, it was simpler than his previous gene research. He even managed to produce results in less than a month's time. After returning to Suha's lab, Yashin asked Su Hao, "Boss Wei, you instructed those small saplings to be arranged in a circle outside the city and planted. Boss Wei, what are those small trees for?" Su Hao smiled. "Those are not trees, they are a simulated beast area." Yashin, puzzled, asked, "Beast area?" Su Hao replied, "It's hard to explain. You'll understand once you see it." Scratching his head, Yashin inquired, "So, what should I see?" Su Hao pointed to a few large cages nearby and said, "Yashin, bring the small round mice from those cages. Let's go to the beast area." Soon, the two arrived at a small hill covered with dense trees, encircled by a straight type of tree arranged neatly in inner and outer rows. Su Hao referred to this tree as a barrier tree, currently in the testing phase where only 2 rows were planted. When the actual beast area is demarcated, these trees would be densely planted in blocks to prevent the beasts from escaping. Su Hao said, "Yashin, take these small round mice up the hill and release them." Upon his return, Su Hao took Yashin around and then said, "Let's go back." Yashin, puzzled, asked, "Just like that, back?" Su Hao replied, "What else?" After a moment of silence, Yashin cautiously asked, "So, what was it that you showed me?" Su Hao laughed heartily, "If you really want to see, stay here for a couple of months, and you'll know." Yashin scratched his head and said, "Then, I'd rather not see it." Su Hao responded, "Let's go. Soon, you'll know. Those released mice inside won't be able to leave. As long as they dare to step out of the range of the barrier trees, they'll die. How about this, get a few people to guard here for a few days, record the condition of the small round mice, and we'll come back later." Yashin nodded, "Okay, boss Wei." 5 days later, Su Hao and Yashin returned to the foot of the small hill, found the record keeper, and Yashin asked, "How are the small round mice on the hill?" The person, after greeting Su Hao and Yashin, said, "Boss Wei, Yashin boss, about half of the small round mice are still on the hill. 2 days ago, half of them came down from the hill and tried to run outside. Shortly after, they all died. Then, fewer and fewer of the mice dared to come out from inside. Today, none have been seen coming out. The essence of the small round mice is not to stop exploring due to the deaths of the scouts. The reason this barrier succeeded was due to environmental selection. Among such a large group of small round mice, those bold enough to run out died, while the more cautious ones survived. Thus, the offspring of these small round mice would likely inherit their cautious trait." Yashin was surprised, "All dead. Besides the mice, have other creatures died?" The person replied, "Nothing found for now. The deaths were all from the marked small round mice." Yashin was very amazed, looking at this peculiar tree. He asked Su Hao, "Boss Wei, what kind of tree is this? It's so miraculous." Su Hao said, "Barrier tree, this is what I mentioned, used to define the beast area." Yashin asked, "Can it kill all the beasts that try to escape from the area? Could it cause accidental harm?" Su Hao confidently stated, "It won't, it only targets the beasts we raise. No matter the level of the beast, if it dares to intrude into the barrier, there's only one outcome." Yashin gasped and instinctively distanced himself from the barrier tree. Su Hao chuckled, "Don't worry, it's harmless to humans." After a moment's thought, Su Hao pointed at the barrier trees ahead and said, "Yashin, take these trees as the basis for mass breeding. The more, the better. I'll write a booklet on breeding methods for you tonight. Then, within the jurisdiction of Yangqing, find an uninhabited area with a decent environment, preferably containing terrains like mountains, forests, grasslands, deserts, rivers, lakes, and slowly plant barrier trees around the demarcated area. The aim is to create a forest." Yashin immediately assured, "Rest assured, boss Wei, I'll make it look great." Su Hao nodded, "No rush. Plant them within 5 years." To convince the people of the 6 cities to form an alliance and establish a new power, mere words wouldn't be enough. He needed tangible and effective results. Your favorite novels at n/ofl/bincom. Armed with results and plans, Su Hao would have a stronger position. If the opposition didn't believe, he could take them to the beast area for a tour, and if still disbelieving, direct replacements could be made. Once the general direction was set, Su Hao didn't bother further. As long as he presented the plans and results, the Temple Forest Society would unquestionably support him. After laying out everything clearly, Su Hao returned to the lab, handed Yashin the barrier tree breeding method, and locked himself to research the genetic sequences suitable for various organisms. 6 months later, Su Hao turned 22. During this time, he had finally listed the compatibility of all 8 genetic sequences. Once the barrier trees in the beast area were planted, the release of the beasts could happen anytime. The material foundation for this world's transformation was established. Now, it was about rallying everyone's strength through the Temple Forest Society to get the job done. Regarding this, Su Hao was helpless. If left to him, he would eradicate all dissenting voices and allow only those in agreement to execute. While this might work when there are few people involved, when scaled to the entire population, it wouldn't be feasible. The world was too fast, and wiping out dissenters wasn't a solution. The planted barrier trees could be sabotaged by disruptive elements, possibly leading to failure. Hence, for the successful execution of the plan, the Temple Forest Society needed to stand on the side of righteousness. Su Hao temporarily put the beast area matter aside and resumed studying the scientific knowledge that had been abandoned for an unknown period. He planned to simultaneously pursue the 3rd item, join the study and exploration of science program, and the 4th item, in-depth study of the nature of the pinball space. Over 3 to 5 years, he aimed to calmly study new theoretical knowledge and delve into the study of the ball space. With such a long time at my disposal, it's time to focus on learning. My knowledge is still too meager. I want more, much more. Su Hao entered the ball space, waved his hand, transforming the laboratory and the ball space into the semblance of his original study. He pulled a chair, sat down, picked up a book from the shelf, Quantum and Consciousness. After flipping through it, he returned it to the shelf, then took out another, Phase Transitions and Critical Phenomena. Murmuring to himself, "It's been so long. The joy of learning." Looking back, the journey to this point has experienced so many twists. It seems that to safeguard the joy of learning, I must acquire more significant power. Continuous learning brings mighty strength, and powerful strength, in turn, safeguards my time for learning. Mutual advancement. Mutual achievement. How wonderful.